Okay. Okay, thank you all. Calling today's Complete Streets Commission meeting to order. Today is Wednesday, the 30th, meeting starting at 6:03 p.m. What do you want to get? Yeah, Bob first.
Commissioner Banerjee, Commissioner Lee,
Here.
Commissioner Pietka,
Here.
Commissioner Hempels, here. Commissioner Schneidner, here. Chair Rickettsman,
Yes.
Vice Chair Katz, here.
Thank you, Warren. Can I have everyone stand up for the pledge of allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Before I get to public comments that are on the agenda, I'd like to invite new member of our commission, Commissioner Tony Lee. Thank you for joining us and appreciate the work of the commission. Would you like to make a few statements before we get started?
I'm very pleased to be here. I've been a Los Altos resident for 19 years now. I've previously been on the senior commission. I'm professionally in doing math and computer science, doing traffic engineering for the internet. I spend a great deal of my recreational time here in Los Altos walking. I walk about 500 miles a year. The remainder of the time I spend biking. I bike with Western Wheelers Bicycle Club.
Great, excellent.
Welcome.
Okay, thank you, Commissioner Lee. Let's see, let's get to the public comments for items not on the agenda. Are there any comments? Anyone wants to make a comment? These are for items not on the agenda. No? Okay, thank you. All right, let's get to, before we get to the calendar, I have a few requests that I'd like to make. I would like to see if anybody has, okay with the consent calendar. Particularly, does anybody want to have a discussion around the calendar itself?
That calendar.
The 2020 calendar.
Not a discussion, but it's the same issue as the theater and the same issue that we raised to council when they were making these changes is not meet the Wednesday before Thanksgiving, which is what is.
And I feel we're gonna cancel it and then do a special.
Okay, so otherwise everyone's okay with approving the calendar as is? Okay. All right, and then the election chair can't be on the consent calendar, it has to be an a discussion item.
Okay.
So I propose we move that to the end of the meeting. So
Is everybody okay with that?
is everyone okay with that?
Yes.
All right, and then for the rest of the discussion items, we're going to keep the discussion order as is unless there's any other proposal. Okay, perfect. All right, let's get to the first item on the agenda. You have something for written public comments. I guess you
No,
have.
that's not the.
Yeah, you just have it in there.
Yeah,
I'm sure everyone.
as a placeholder.
Has in your emails, and yes, all the commissioners have seen them, you know. All right, let's get to the first item then, which will be item number 3 on the agenda. Approving minutes from the September 25th meetings. Do I have any motion to move, approve the minutes or any comments from the minutes?
To approve.
Approve. Do I have a second? Second, okay, everyone say aye.
Aye.
Right, thank you, carries unanimously. All right, let's get to our first item on the discussion items, which is a discussion of an e-bike and e-scooter ordinance. Just for us to set the stage, I'm gonna have Stephen make a brief presentation. And after the presentation, we'll go through a round of questions. I'm assuming that the commissioners have all seen his presentation, so we don't spend too much time on his presentation. We'll get to questions, and then we'll get to public comments, and then bring it back for final comments on the item itself. Before we get started, just want to note Commissioner Schneider joined us. Perfect. So, Stephen, do you want to go ahead first?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Good evening, everybody. My name is Steve with the Public Works Department. I bring before you proposed discussion about the e-bikes and e-scooter policy for the city. For those of you who has already looked through my presentation, I'm gonna just announce now that I'm gonna cut it short. The reason why is because I've had a discussion with the city attorney about an hour ago, and she's saying there has been recent laws that may circumvent or trump some of the stuff that's being proposed at this point in time. So we have not had a chance to go ahead and review those new policies. So until we know what those new policies are, I can't really propose anything. So the tone of this meeting will be to basically get public feedback on what is it that the residents of the city would like to see. How do we want to tailor whatever proposed ordinance that we're going to be going and implementing, so that we can take it before the council someday. Okay. Depending on how the conversation goes, we may have multiple discussion about this ordinance, because we want to make sure that we hear out the residents of this city. Please keep in mind that the purpose of this ordinance is not to discourage the utilization of e-bikes and e-scooters in the city. The purpose of this ordinance is to try to bring some order into a lot of chaos, and the fact that nobody really knows what are some of the rules are. Nobody is really understanding that an e-bike has to follow the same rules as a bike and as well as a car. So with that in mind, I'm just going to present what the state law currently says, and I'll try to make it quick as possible so that I could give everybody an opportunity to speak on this matter. Again, please keep in mind, this is not the intent is to discourage one mode of transportation over another. It's just, we're just trying to make it uniform throughout the whole process. So some of the issues that's currently being expressed by the residents of the city is the fact that there is a lot of the residents have been very vocal and have been concerned about some of the behavior of some of the e-bike that is being utilized on the public right of way. They're concerned about the safety. It has been the biggest concerns. They're saying that they're basically kind of going wherever they want. They have had numerous experience with near collisions because, you know, they are riding wherever they want, basically, whether it be sidewalks, whether it be bike lanes. In fact, we have some that is actually being utilized in our public right of way, which is the road. The residents has also expressed that there has been numerous incidents where operators do not have helmets, especially those who are required by law under the age of 18 to wear a helmet while utilizing a bike. They're concerned about that. There have been numerous situations, as you can see on this picture, where people are riding the most I've seen was 4. I don't know how they squeeze it in, but they're able to squeeze it in. Especially what I've noticed is around lunchtime. Some kids going to the downtown, some going towards El Monte, go to McDonald's and so on. So it's just, these are some of the things that has been really been safety concern by the residents. The police department has observed some blatant disregard for the vehicle laws. They basically kind of ride where they want. They're not really following this traffic rules. They're blowing through intersections when there's no cars. It's really concerning, and it's not just an isolated situation. I mean, my office overlooks San Antonio, and every day at lunchtime I look outside. It makes me cringe. Yeah. The bikes are actually going faster than a lot of the e-bikes and e-scooters are actually going a lot faster than majority of the people who's actually utilizing the bicycle lane. So they're basically, you know, they're coming up really quick and then they just pop out and go around them. The way they're going and operating that in the public right, especially when there's cars slowing down the road, again, it's not a very safe movement to do, especially when you're not wearing a helmet. And as I stated before, they're driving more than they want. So with that in mind, I just want to kind of go over some of the laws that has already been on the books, so that we're all understanding the same law, so that we know what is already on the books and what are some of the things that needs to be modified. Okay, under vehicle code 231, basically, e-bike is a bicycle. They do not make any differentiation by ordinance, it's just that. So e-bikes have the same rights as a bicycle rider. That means that they could go ahead and utilize the bicycle lane as much as everybody else, and they have the right to be on the road. There are three classifications of e-bikes: Class 1, Class 2, and Class 3. Let me give you a little distinction between those two classes. Class 1 is our e-bikes that is supplemented by an electric motor as you're pedaling that could allow you to go up to a maximum of 20 miles per hour. Class 2 is the motor will start at the same time the pedal is pedaling, and the person could stop pedaling and the motor will take over. And that has a maximum of 20 miles per hour as well. Class 3 is basically a Class 2 with the ability to go up to 28 miles per hour. So that is a big distinction on different types of bike. And the vehicle code also states that you could only ride the number of passenger is dependent on what is the manufacturer design of that bike. So if it is like a banana seats like we're all used to in the old days, where you have, you can sit multiple people, that's the limit. But if it's only for two, you cannot go beyond that. Under vehicle code 21-200 in California Vehicle Code, they do have every right to be on the public road. They're also obligated to follow all the rules of the road in certain regards. He also states that if there is a bike lane on a road, they're supposed to be utilizing it. If there is no bike lane, then if you cannot go at the same speed of a posted speed, you're supposed to be riding on the shoulder. If there is no shoulder and it's basically unsafe to do that, then yes, you could utilize the regular road lane. But that is what basically the vehicle code says. Also, he also states that if you want to try to overtake another bike, you could come out of the bike lane to go around that person, as long as it is a safe maneuver to do so. Okay, the helmet law, as I stated before, California Vehicle Code 21-212 states that anybody under 18 is required to wear a helmet. And just to back up, Class 3, there is a limitation of who could actually purchase the Class 3. It cannot be utilized by anybody under the age of 16 because Class 3 requires a driving license. So that is some of the major high points of an e-bike. With that in mind, the e-scooters, basically it's under section 407.5 that defines what an e-scooters could be. Basically, the rule is if you can stand on it, it has a dimension of 18 inches wide. It gives you a dimension of what was considered an e-scooter. The handle cannot be higher than the shoulder length, and it cannot exceed 15 miles per hour, and it cannot be ridden on the sidewalk. It's already written on the code. When utilizing crosswalks, the e-scooter is supposed to be walked across the crosswalk, not ridden. With that in mind, I mean, pretty much the rules of an e-scooter and an e-bike are the same. Same rules apply in the fact that they're required to follow the rules of the road. Just giving you some. Okay, so this is basically the field observation. What I've done is I've basically observed. It was done over almost a month period. We're actually gone out to various locations in the city. Basically, I didn't look for a spot, but I did to try to catch people. Is basically I just kind of drove around town and see what is going on. What I've observed is a lot of time, the kids are utilizing class 2, like I stated. The reason why I know it's class 2 is because the kids are not pedaling and they're going 20 miles per hour. I do see a lot of class 1s, but not as much as class 2. I will denote the fact that a lot of kids, if it is just a single rider, the owner of that e-bike does have a helmet. About 9 out of 10 times is the passenger who does not have the helmet, and they're zipping along at 20 miles per hour. The reason why I say they're zipping along at 20 miles per hour, I actually had a radar gun and actually observed how the e-bike operators are utilizing the road. And at the same time, I actually did take a radar survey of the speed. That's why I said they range from 15 to 20, depending on what type of e-bike that they're using. It appears that the majority of the people who are utilizing the e-bikes are basically kids 16 and younger. This is the reason why is because I'm noticing that this is means of, just because they don't have the driver's license, this is the way they are getting around town. And it's the most fastest way for them to go ahead and leave campus at lunch. Well, they have only 45 minutes to get whatever they want. Hop on an e-bike with their friends, go to McDonald's, go to downtown, go wherever, go ahead and do what they want to do. Basically the e-bikes, and I can't just say it's just e-bikes. I'll just say bikes in general are, they're utilizing both sidewalks, roads. They're going up wrong direction of roads. I've seen numerous times where someone's walking on the sidewalk and they have to yield for the bike because the bike is just zipping along. I have also observed that if they come to an intersection, especially the downtown area, where the way that the traffic signals rotate among them, if one location is going one direction, they'll ride their bike, go over the sidewalk, and then go across another road, and then just kind of do the whole daisy chain to get to where they want to get. It didn't matter what is in front of them, they're just driving all over the place. It's because e-bikes do not really require a lot of energy. It's a motor that's augmenting the power, so they're just running all over the place. Like I stated, most of them does seem like it's they're obeying the law. It is the few that's kind of souring the whole pool, and the fact that those who are trying to obey the law are actually obeying the law, but the few that is not is really making it dangerous for everybody else. I've had numerous complaints about they're waiting at an intersection, the intersection is red, and all of a sudden an e-bike just goes through. So it's just a lot of concerns. So anecdotally, I just want to kind of show some of the example that's going on out there right now. We do have a situation where they're not wearing helmets. This is, I took a picture of a bike. Okay, this one is not wearing a helmet. This one is, but it's not properly latched. They're just kind of putting it down for show. This was done in Almond. This was done in San Antonio. This was done in Main Street, where basically the kids are going riding the bikes in the runway. This one is an e-bike was coming down San Antonio, and the San Antonio turned green, and the pedestrians proceeded to walk. And so instead of waiting for that pedestrian to pass and clear, what they decided to do was go around them, go in the wrong direction of the road, and come back in. And he just barely missed the car while I was doing it. But in his defense, I will say one thing about him. He was a gentleman. He gave his helmet to his girlfriend. So, you know, he did something right, but the way he did it, what I'm not showing is how close he came to the SUV that was coming the other direction. Some of the e-bikes that's utilizing in our downtown area is a playground for them. They're stopping wherever they want. They could drive wherever they want, pop a curb, they're doing what a typical teenager would do on a bicycle. But the difference is there's a motor not involved. The one in the middle is doing a wheelie off of Main Street coming into San Antonio. Yeah, that's what's up. This is the situation that we're in the downtown area with bicycle being utilized in our sidewalk. The pedestrians are actually having to move out of the way. If there's ample amount of time, the pedestrians aren't able to move out of the way. But when you get to up here where there's a pizza parlor, where there's a congregation and a lot of pedestrians, some of the kids are not even slowing down. They're trying to wiggle their way through and they're hitting the brakes in the last minute. The issue with that is on a bike, you don't have as much control while you're in movement. If you've been walking, easier to navigate. So in this situation, we're seeing pedestrians just jumping out of the way so that they're trying not to get run over. This is a pedestrian on San Antonio Road. Had they have gone in the direction of flow of traffic, they would have gone across the street and utilized the bike lane, which would have allowed them to go directly into the school. But because they didn't want to wait for the lights, they are fully utilizing the sidewalk. Now I have a pedestrian standing in the way, staying out of the way for all the kids to basically clear. So that's pretty much my presentation. And so the purpose of this meeting is to give an opportunity for the public to kind of weigh in on what is it that, how do we want to tailor our policy? What is it that we want to recommend to council as to how are we going to address some of the concerns? Like I stated earlier before, the state just passed another law, so we don't know what the full ramification is. So whatever this is a process where the law's changing rapidly. I know that some of you guys are talking about circumventing the regulator. There was a attempt by the legislator to go ahead and prevent that from happening. Unfortunately, it died on the floor. Never made it into law. So the law has not been fully implemented yet. I don't know why they ever made it, but there was extensive discussion and changes that was going on back and forth. It was set for a vote, but it never made it. So it's still a draft at this point in time. The city of Palo Alto, on recent Post newspaper, they're encouraging e-bikes to be utilized in their jurisdiction. They're trying to bring more e-bikes into the community. But at the same time, there are a lot of other agencies that is trying to encourage that, but they're trying to bring some law and order into this. The legislator did allow each agencies to restrict where that bike could go. But from what I understand, they're also loosening the policies so that you can basically utilize the e-bike in a lot more different places now. Before the policy, before some of the recent law, they couldn't ride on some of the trails. They can use like some of the bike lanes. The most recent laws basically allows those stuff to actually occur, so that the public could not utilize some of the trails unless you are restricted by ordinance. Some of the agencies have restricted e-bikes on sidewalks. City of Danville was one of the closest one. I think Pleasanton was another one. There's several cities here in the Bay who's actually setting policies because they're experiencing the same thing.
Okay, thank you, Stephen. Why don't we first go around the questions from the commissioners, then we'll do public comments and then back for additional comments and discussion. Let's go first.
Comments, not questions, so wait.
Okay, we'll wait for comments and questions.
I have one. Oh, no, you go ahead, Tom.
So Stephen, the police, have you talked to the police and they've made any comments on this? I assume so, I just haven't seen anything on your petition on it.
Sergeant Taylor is with the traffic enforcement.
I'm Sergeant Taylor with the police department. You grab a chair. Hold on. Sitting in the back here.
You have specific questions? No, this is, okay.
Yeah, they-
Maybe have, would you like to make,
Yeah, I can comment on that.
okay.
Stephen and the crew at City Hall has been in touch with us throughout this process to try to get something drafted. At the end of the day, we just want safety for everybody, safety on the streets downtown also, so. That's why I'm here to engage in this and try to help it move along to the next step.
Are you ticketing any of these, are you ticketing any of these violations?
So I'll share this with the group and certain members of the city, and people don't like me saying it, but we're severely understaffed right now. Unfortunately, that has tripled to not having a traffic enforcement unit, so what we have 4 people there 3 or 4 years ago, it's just me, but I'm a supervisor that's tasked with a lot of other stuff, and I'm rarely even out on the street, so I have to take all the accidents for the whole city right now, and it's a lot. So we do, kind of go back to the start of that question, we are enforcing with the resources that we have. Our patrol officers are out every day, making stops, writing tickets. But there's just not that many of them, so it's hard when people say, we don't see you guys out there. It's like, we're out there, there's just not very many of us.
Yeah, really do is like, if you're actually trying to ticket somebody and they're underage and they don't have a driver's license. It's
Yeah, so
hard.
that's a hard one. The approach we're taking on that is we actually just designed a new education component to bicycle safety. We used to contract with a company that did the safety seminars at the schools, but we decided to bring it in-house because we think we can provide kind of a more in-depth program to the schools. So we just finished that. So we're gonna start reaching out to the schools to go on campus, give that education component, talk about helmets, e-bikes as part of it, just to go over all the stuff that we're discussing here. Try to get that education kind of upfront take on things, or it gets to the, hopefully to help out on the enforcement side. Yes, sir.
Question, which is that, from your perspective and the police department's perspective, do the state laws around e-bikes and e-scooters, do they provide you all the tools that you need? Or are you looking for something beyond that from the city that the commission should be talking about?
When you say provide tools,
So
can
the,
you
well,
be
the
more
first,
specific?
the presentation that Steve just made.
Yeah.
Showed all the statutes at the state level of what how the laws apply. Class 1, class 2, class 3 bikes and scooters. And my question is, from the police department's perspective, your perspective, are those all the tools that you require? You know, in terms of when you want to enforce and, you know, what the circumstances are? Or are you looking for additional kinds of limitations that the council and the commission ought to be looking at?
That's a hard question to answer from my perspective. It had to be on a specific violation type thing that I would have to answer that. But off the top of my head, the biggest thing that the state law doesn't address is sidewalks. So that would be the biggest thing, and that's what we've been talking about is most, I don't know, some cities choose to make that ordinance because there's no state law that says bicycles, e-bikes falling into that category can't be on site. If that's the direction that everybody wants to go, that ordinance would be something that we would need to do that. That we do get that complaint pretty regularly from citizens and from the businesses downtown and there's bicycles on the sidewalk, but there's no state law that says they can't be. So that's where it's tough for us.
Right? Do you believe that if there were limitations to bicycles on sidewalks, that those limitations could be enforced?
With the proper resources, yes.
Do you have a problem with bikes on sidewalks outside of the business district?
I would have to go through our complaints, but the biggest complaint is the downtown district.
We had a couple more questions, I guess.
Yeah, but, well, it kind of impacted, well. Stephen, on that picture, earlier, you showed a guy doing a wheelie.
Mhm.
Was that an e-bike or was that a motorcycle?
That was the e-bike.
'Cause it didn't look like, that's gonna be pretty tough to get, like, big guy.
The only reason why I didn't use that picture is because it really showed who the person was, and I didn't want to show it.
Because it just looked like it was a motorcycle.
No, it was actually.
Not that it would be legal, but.
I've seen the e-bikes do this personally myself. Yeah,
If it's a small kid, they probably could, but that look pretty big.
no, it's happened. I've seen it multiple times actually.
If I can add one caveat to your question, Commissioner. There has been, I've received numerous complaints where bicycles are on sidewalks going the wrong direction. When cars are pulling out, I've had numerous complaints, basically with us, the driver saying, I did not see a car. I mean, I didn't see the bike because he was coming in the sidewalk, the wrong direction, and I almost hit the kid.
Is there actual law that says you can't go that direction on a sidewalk or even the bike lane?
That's, I'm just saying, those are some of the common complaints I'm getting, is the fact that they're actually utilizing the sidewalk going the wrong direction. Because they don't want to ride in the street, even though there's a bike lane there. So when the cars are pulling back, they're looking, but they cannot see that bicycle coming.
Anybody else? Do you have any other questions, Commissioner Schneider?
No.
Go ahead.
So to answer your question, yes, there is a vehicle code ordinance against vehicle code section against riding against traffic in the bike lane.
But not the
Not on the sidewalk. Not
Not
on
on
the
the
sidewalk.
sidewalk, but in the bike lane. You must drive, you must go with the traffic flow.
Okay.
Wants to go next? Go ahead.
I have a question for Simon. So I think the first question I have is the education moving in-house. So I know we're not supposed to say our opinions now, but that's a good thing because my son had the outsourced stuff when he was in elementary school. So I think if you guys have the resources, that will be an improvement. That education was just for elementary schools, I think. I don't know if it was used in the middle school. Are you guys, in the in-house program, also planning to educate at the high school level?
Yeah, that was one of the reasons we wanted to kind of take it under our wing to open that up so we can reach more students. Yes.
And then my other question for you is not to put you on the spot, but this isn't something we should sweep under the carpet. I thought that traffic unit was coming back. This evidence.
I thought so also. And then we end up losing people. So
So it's a matter of
it's not having staffing.
not having that. It's not a council funding budget problem. It's a hard to hire.
It's,
Yeah.
we don't have enough people on the roster to fill our
Yeah,
spots.
I'm sorry to hear that
The
still.
spots are there, but they're just nobody to fill them.
Do you have any idea how many open positions there are?
Do you have any other questions?
I had a question for Stephen, but if you wanna, it's okay if he wants.
Okay, go ahead.
Do you have any idea how many open positions there are?
No, off the top of my head, I don't want to give you a wrong answer.
I have one other question. Have we notified and taken input from the high school about this presentation? Or any? And are most of those people we're seeing in those pictures or when we go downtown, are they the high school kids or are they also like middle school level?
I've looked at some of the kids were actually middle schools.
Okay.
So it's not just high schools.
Have we notified the schools and invited them tonight and showed them where we're at?
I did not personally reach out to each individual schools.
Okay, so the schools have not been notified, just
No.
to clarify, okay. That's all the questions I have.
Almost.
Yeah, appreciate the help putting all this together, Stephen and, from the PD. I think folks answered a lot of what I have. I'm just, yeah, I'm trying to think if I can form anything as a question that I want to understand from you, Stephen. And apologies, I missed about the first 5 minutes, I think, of the presentation. Did we put forward, like, do we have a proposal that we're asking folks to weigh in on, or this is more focused on like raising awareness, getting input from the public?
At this point in time.
Yeah.
What I had mentioned at the very beginning
Yeah.
is, I've had a discussion with the city attorney. There has been recent, law modifications
Mhm.
that may circumvent some of my recommendations.
Sure.
So until I could really analyze that law, I have no recommendation.
Got it.
So the purpose of this is to start the dialogue, to start talking, obtain public feedbacks about what are some of the things that's being, that
Yes.
the residents would like to see.
Okay, cool. I don't think I have anything else, as a question.
Any other questions? I just have just kind of a, since we're not discussing specific recommendations today, I just want to maybe give you the opportunity to kind of go back and think about what is the problem that we're trying to solve specifically? Because it seems like, at least some of the recommendations that you originally thought about had to do with both bicycle safety or bicycle rider safety, as well as people who are being affected by, shall I say, misbehavior by e-bike riders. I think what we propose has bearing on what is it that we're trying to solve, right? Seems like the primary concern is the safety of people being affected by those misbehaving using these e-bikes. Is that correct? Is that a true statement?
That is a true statement. The intent is, like council's objective, is to bring safety to the public. Some of the comments I've received is very specific and tailored towards someone who's a professional bike rider. The onus is not intent to address them, it's to address the broad spectrum of our residents and how we would bring equality and how to utilize basically riding the bike or the e-bike in public. You should not be in a situation where, okay, let me back up. The whole conversation started because we have heard a lot of outcry from the residents of the city saying, I can't walk in my own street or in my sidewalk because I have an e-bike rolling right through. And they're quiet, I don't see them coming, or they don't care I'm there. So that's how the conversation gets started. Downtown does get the biggest impact because you do have a lot of residents in the downtown area walking, especially in the winter. But at the same time, you also have a lot of kids who's coming into the downtown. And I'm not picking on the kids on this matter. Unfortunately, they're the one who's utilizing it the most because it's the most efficient use of transportation, just short of having a driver's license. So they're the one who's actually coming into the downtown, riding the bike so that they can get to the pizza parlor, the Starbucks, whatever. And instead of following a lot of the rules of the road, they basically decide to, if the car stop at a four-way stop, they'll kind of round them. And then go in crosswalk, go to the sidewalk, go across the crosswalk, sidewalk, and then go walk. So that's not the rules of the road, it's basically.
Questions. I just want to get it out of there. There was a, possibly discussion around, or I guess a point that you had made around having speed limits on bike lanes.
Yes.
The only question I had was, is there precedence for this with other jurisdictions and other agencies having done this? Because that seems like something that is very unique. I haven't seen this before, but anything that's been done before.
There were some agencies that have done research, they do have speed limit. it's because of what they told the city attorney, that may not be effective. She's kind of leaning towards, if the state is saying that class 1, 2 is speed is 20, and class 3 speed is 28, that may be what the new law says. So that kind of circumvents some of the stuff that I was proposing to do. That's the reason I said. Cannot talk about it because I don't understand the full extent of it.
Can I answer?
Yeah, I just, ask people, I know I'm noticing that we've got people in the audience. I'm sitting half the distance and I'm struggling to hear every word. So what I'd ask is if we can all make an effort to just speak a little louder so that everybody can hear.
Yeah, thank you, yeah.
And yeah, the question was, to that point, I would be surprised if it wasn't the case that if you're exceeding posted speed limit for a car in a street, that it was legal to exceed that on a bike, but maybe that is the case, that's interesting. So infinity miles per hour on a bike lane, yeah.
No, cover that.
Yeah.
I'll answer that one.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, the speed limit applies too, because in that scenario, whether it's a bicycle, e-bike, the rules of the road still apply to that vehicle, so that is still the speed limit for us. Thank you. Yeah.
One thing that is also readily available to the e-bike utilizers are ways to get around the regulators. So,
Have we considered making downtown speed limit 15 miles an hour for everything?
under Prop 43 does allow that to happen. I have not been given direction to bring Prop 43 before council. It does state that under Prop 43, you could designate, you could designate downtown as a special district that allows that thing to occur. That also applies for all school zones, but you have to clearly identify, and you have to identify via ordinance.
Okay, thank you. Just one last question, and either the officer or you can answer. This is specific to do with how do you differentiate, that is, how are you able to tell different bike classes? And then how do you then adjudicate violation, I guess? That seems like a hard thing to do.
Let me add one comment.
Yeah.
In 2017, the state of California did pass a law that states all bike has to be clearly labeled class 1, class 2, and class 3. And also, how you ride the bike kind of gives it a telltale sign. Because a class 1, the motor will disengage the moment you stop pedaling. Class 2 is you start pedaling and the motor engages, you're gone. Class 3 is the one that actually zips through at 28 miles per hour.
I just have to say that's not 100% true. Class 2, you have to still have to engage the throttle before you can go. But still, I think if there is a violation, how do you know that, for example, if class 3 versus class 2, that's a hard thing for you to determine.
Yeah. We don't really know, unless we probably have to stop it or inspect it and talk to the person.
There is a way.
Just
There is a way.
So, yeah, the public can make a comment if they have a chance to do that, and thank you, appreciate it. Then the last question I had was about sidewalks. It seems like you've done a bunch of research on what other jurisdictions and then agencies might have restricted this, but do you know of anywhere that have restricted bikes on all sidewalks and all pedestrian paths?
The one I read was Ventura Pier District. They basically stated that it was no bicycle in the sidewalk.
Which one was this again?
It was Ventura Marine Pier District or something like that. That's what I read. I have the notes in my office. But most of them states a very specific location where you cannot ride it. The reason why I was proposing to broadly define and say, no, it's sidewalk throughout the whole city, is let's say we define downtown from beginning of Main Street to First Street, San Antonio to Edith. let's just use that as a prime example. What happened if the bicycle is now riding from Main Street, you crossed it, you're now in San Antonio? Does the rule no longer apply to where you just identify it as a bike-free sidewalk zone? So how are you gonna differentiate that? The other aspect of it is this, along Almond, at the end of the day, when kids are all out, you see a lot of kids walking on the sidewalk, and you do see bicycle and e-bikes trying to navigate through that because they don't want to ride the bike lane, the bike track out there. So, you know, it's in those regards. Talking with Sergeant Taylor with Captain Ledoux at the police department, it is not intent, the rule's not intent to keep a little child from being able to learn how to ride a bike on their sidewalk because there's gonna be. It's not that. We're trying to make it as broad and general as possible so that it could be easily applicable. Where they don't have to worry about, okay, where's the jurisdictional line? Did they cross that line or are they still within that line? I'm trying to keep that line from blurring.
Okay, all right, thank you. Any other questions? Yes, Commissioner Lee?
So could we restrict that to being not riding bikes on sidewalks in business districts? That
If
way
that's
you
what
don't-
is what we want to do.
And if you do it based on zoning, not on particular streets, then you don't have that issue, plus it involves as the zoning changes.
We will have to clearly define that by ordinance. Because how are you gonna say where that line is exactly?
There is defined business district.
Yeah, but that's what I mean, we have to.
Vehicle
Clear-
code already defines what a business district is.
The
Okay.
city has defined business.
Okay, all right, I think it's a good point to take with you, I guess. Okay, I'm gonna open it up for public comments. We just have our. Five. Thanks. So this is for public comments on what is originally item number 5 on the agenda. Give every speaker 2.5 minutes, so if you could please keep your comments to 2.5 minutes, that would be great. First one, Jonathan Bloom. And the next one would be Bob Lauer.
Thank you for this opportunity to speak. I'm a resident of Sunnyvale, but I bicycle in Los Altos more than in Sunnyvale. I appreciate the efforts of city staff to address a problem with badly behaved people on electrically powered two-wheeled vehicles. I use that term because not all of them are e-bikes, but I think there are potentially better recommendations than the ones that were originally in the presentation and now are not. And I don't need to remind the commission of the social value of e-bikes and bicycles. There are already laws that restrict children from riding certain kinds of two-wheeled vehicles. For example, a motorized two-wheeled vehicle with a motor more powerful than 750 watts or a throttle that can exceed 20 miles an hour is not an e-bike. It's a moped or a motorcycle, which means its operator has to have a license. It has to be registered and have plates, and it can't be driven by children under 16, who also can't operate a class 3 e-bike. Under state law, there are limitations on what ordinances cities can put in place. For example, the 15-mile-an-hour speed limit on bicycles, unless it applies to the to everything, as Commissioner Lee suggested. Adding a helmet requirement for adults wouldn't address the problem of helmetless children who under state law are already required to wear a helmet. Existing state laws cover the following issues. First, everyone under age 18 on any two-wheeled vehicle has to have a helmet. Second, children under age 16 can't drive a motorcycle, moped, or class 3 e-bike. Third, mopeds and motorcycles require registration plates, and this includes all motorized two-wheeled vehicles with a throttle that can go over 20 miles an hour. We don't need new ordinances banning things that are already illegal, and ordinances that reiterate state law might become invalid if the state law changes and then they become unenforceable. So they don't really do anything. So obviously the police department is aware of the solution, the problem. The solution's harder. But what we need is for them to have the resources to enforce the existing laws. regarding electrically powered two-wheeled vehicles. And I think community outreach will also be very important, that was talked about tonight. But I think also outreach to the parents who are apparently buying motorcycles for their children, illegal motorcycles, needs to be an important part of that, not just education of the students, but also their parents. Thank you.
Thank you. Perfect. Perfectly timed. Bob Miller, and next will be Eric Miller.
Good evening, I'm Bob Wood. I sent the commission a presentation a few days ago, so you may have a chance to see that already. The background, I'm a cycling instructor. I've been instructing now for about 15 years or so quite a few years of background of educating people how to use it properly. I taught middle school kids this summer, so the first I'm teaching middle school kids, which is chaos. I've never taught high school kids, but I'm ready for that one. My first favorite presentation covered on vehicles, and someone already mentioned the fact that these bikes are easily modifiable. You guys said that, Stephen. I saw one that can go to 40 miles an hour, which is insane. So there's a huge range of how they can modify these bikes. Bottom line is these things can accelerate really fast, like 0 to 20 in 6 seconds or so. That's if it's legal, like a 750-watt motor. Bigger than that, obviously faster. But the acceleration is a huge deal because it catches you by surprise, which is what you said earlier as well. So that's the bikes. And yeah, these things are scary, honestly. Especially for kids, because as you said, Stephen, pick on your words, the education and the safety are the two key things here. These kids, it's their first time on the road, right? And so they don't know how to handle a vehicle on the road. They don't know how to turn left. They don't know what speed is. They don't know how to brake properly. And it's not even raining yet. If it starts to rain, what's going to happen? The roads are wet. These kids suddenly faced with a wet road, making distance is now 3x for the road before they were dry. So that's going to be a huge change again for these kids in a few weeks' time or less. So education is huge. And I'd like to get all of you who did it, or the city in helping out with educating these kids, and certainly arrange the contacts and get you guys on that path here. Because there's many programs that do kid education already. As far as the legislation, we've already talked about that at length. The sidewalk one is huge. Biking government already says that the riding on sidewalks is a big cause of crashes between pedestrians and the bike. And so that one's a huge one. And it's already covered before. The riding alongside the streets already covered in the existing 14 legislations in California. Other than that, I think the rest of it's pretty well known as the bike lane thing is it's that way you should ride or further. If there's a car block in the way, that's going to take up 8 feet, 10 feet, the door open, another 12, another 4 feet beyond that. So you're talking 12 feet width if there's a vehicle blocking your bike lane. Okay, so the kids are unaware of this right now. One of the things that they'll need to get to is the safety here. So is that my time going off?
Yes.
All right.
Eric Miller, next would be Ann Paulson.
President of the Santos. So, in my opinion, the first step, these e-bikes are new for the kids in the city. And so the first step for me is education before making laws. Things are going to get a lot wider if we can do the good education. I believe so. There's all the issues of the laws that cannot have in California. And so in terms of security of the bikes, because that's what we care about, I go on bike. I can tell you, I wish we had enough resources to work on the cabs. We drive 30 you drive 30 in front of the school during school hours. Those are way more dangerous. The cars we drive at half a feet from me on my bike and not the 3 feet, as you mentioned. Go after those things before you go after the kids. Okay. Maybe, and that's where the real work has to be done. And also, there was a mention of style of the street. in Los Altos, when our bike lanes, most of them allow parking, so they are no longer bike lanes. And the shoulders, most of them are in Porsche. So we're in a very precarious situation for bike. There isn't this clear, there's a bike lane and you can take it. Most of them are occupied by cars, sooner or later. And there's also the problem of bike lanes that disappear when you arrive in an intersection. And nobody knows what to do there. And those are super dangerous.
Thank you. And also, next one will be Deborah Goldine.
Hi, I'm Ann Paulson. First, there is the AB 1774 was signed in July that bans the modifications, bans the people from modifying e-bikes. Also, there's a very easy way to tell whether something's an e-bike, a class 3 e-bike, if it's going faster than 20 miles an hour if it's going faster than 20 miles an hour and the rider is not pedaling, it is not any kind of e-bike. It's a motorcycle and they're almost certainly riding it illegally. So we have an issue with some bad behaving people on motorized cycles. But I want to point out that the fat tired bikes in the first 8 photos that you presented to us are not, in fact, legal e-bikes. I've looked online at those fat tired e-bikes and every single one I looked at either had an engine that was too big, so it had too much acceleration, it wasn't an e-bike. It had both a throttle and a maximum of 28 miles an hour, not an e-bike, or it had a speed maximum that was greater than 20 miles an hour, not an e-bike. And of course, as has been said, they can notoriously be modified aftermarket to go faster. So even if they were legal, they can be turned illegal by what is going to now be illegally modified. Adults shouldn't be riding these illegal bikes, and children certainly shouldn't be. So these are illegal bikes. We don't need new laws. The answer is enforcing existing laws, which I hope we get. We obviously need more people to enforce them. And we also need to educate residents who do not realize that they are buying motorcycles for their children, that their children cannot legally ride. Now let's talk about sidewalk riding for a minute. It makes sense to ban sidewalk riding downtown. I agree with everyone here. It would make even more sense to, at the same time, put some bike corrals there so that the kids could park on the street, or anyone could park on the street, but park their bikes on the street parking spaces, because the only reason those bikes are on the street downtown is because that's where the parking is. You take the bike parking away, the kids can put their bikes in the bike parking on the street and then just walk like people would do if they were in a car. So I hope that we can find some way to get some more enforcement for these problems. Thank you.
Thank you. Deborah, next will be Jill Woodford.
Oh God, 2.5 minutes. I don't know if I can do this. I'm gonna try. Listening to this discussion is sort of like being a neurologist listening to podiatrists discussing brain surgery they're gonna do. And it's just like, oh wow, how do I even begin? The modification for a class 2 e-bike is you disconnect a wire. That's it. Comes with a sign that says if you disconnect this wire, you could get a ticket. Okay, how quickly on the internet you just disconnect the wire and your bike goes 40 miles an hour. The class 2 has a throttle. The state really screwed this up. I have been lobbying Silicon Valley Bicycle Coalition for 2 years saying, we got a problem here. The state screwed up. They have classified a motorcycle as a bicycle. So, the problem, you've got the problem wrong in the first place. Banning bikes on sidewalks. A city of Palo Alto has a ban on scooters, skateboards, bicycles on sidewalks in all its business districts. And it has had that for half a century and it works great. So if they can do it, I'm sure you can do it too. Enforcement. So excuse me. Hello. Enforcement. It's very heavy on enforcement, ticket here, ticket there. Okay. Today I saw maybe 100 motorists fail to use their turn signals. Okay? I did not see one motorist make a proper right turn. In fact, I doubt anybody on this commission actually knows that you're required in the vehicle code to move all the way as right as practicable for 20 feet before you make your turn. Nobody knows that. These are all ticketable. And then let's go for those tinted driver's side windows. These are all bike and pedestrian killers. If you're a cyclist like me, I put 7,000 miles a year on my bike. I'm not driving. I am doing my part to mitigate climate change. But if you can't enforce even really basic traffic things that are just, it's rampant, why are you picking on bikes? I don't think it's gonna work. Anyway, it's point of sale. And there's a big problem with the state. I would love some pushback from this commission to the Silicon Valley Bicycle Coalition, because they haven't listened to me. I haven't shut up yet. I have been sent 25 emails to Mark Berman and his aides about this, saying, hello, this is a problem. Could you guys do this too? Maybe they'll listen to you because they haven't listened to you. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Jill?
Thanks for giving me the opportunity to speak today, and I appreciate it. I just want to let you all know I'm here on behalf of myself, and I'm not speaking on any organization or group. So I think we should encourage people of all ages to walk and bike as much as they possibly can around town, and we should really be thoughtful about any kind of restrictions we put on those activities, considering climate change and the impacts that cars have on our environment, and actually do hurt a lot of people every year, even in our I do think that I've seen what everybody's talking about here, and it's actually horrifying. I've been riding a motorcycle since I was 7 years old, and I do have a motorcycle license in the state of California. It's really scary. I don't think these people have been trained how to ride these things, and someone's going to get really hurt. So I appreciate that this is something that we're talking about here today. I think we should put e-bike parking in town at the Edith, Main and San Antonio intersection, so people can park, and just the students coming from high school can still ride their bikes, get off and go to town and do what they need to do, and really focus on enforcing the laws that are in place, which is, you know, wearing proper helmets, the number of people that are on their bikes. Are they riding motorcycles or mopeds, or are they actually riding bicycles? I ride a Class 1 e-bike because I have a spinal injury and a neurological disability that impacts my ability to ride a regular bicycle. But I do not support those, the throttle type of bikes that you can just ride like a moped. And I think that's where this whole problem is enforcing those rules around those kind of bikes. Bikes shouldn't be on sidewalks in business districts, but I think we cannot have broad laws that impact our entire community, like no bikes on sidewalks ever. Just because there's so many areas like riding bikes down Cuesta, that's the most convenient way for us to get to town with our kids. We've done it thousands of times over the years with our kids, and there's just no safe way for a kid to be on that street. There's no way. And then I think there should not be speed limits in bike lanes. That's ridiculous. I used to bike a lot before I hurt my back, and I would be easily riding sometimes 30 miles an hour as I'm running errands or going down Foothill or something. So that just seems totally crazy for me, even without any electric assist. And I think 15 miles an hour downtown in the business district is a great idea, and we should pursue that, like, independent of this. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Anybody else? Thank you. I'm just gonna bring it back for some final comments from the commissioners. Unless somebody wants to open up a topic of discussion, I think since Stephen has already mentioned that, you know, it's kind of, you know, gathering comments back from the public and commission, let's make sure we get all the comments. Then we'll figure out next steps after that. Who wants to go first?
Thank you for everyone's comments. I think we're all consensus. It feels like that this is a problem, needs to be addressed. We're not gonna create new laws or other laws to follow our way out of this or enforce it, but there ultimately needs to be some addressing of the issue. I also ask that we think about engaging the school board, given this seems to be a school-related policy with school children. I experience it with groups of small kids going down on e-bikes at lunchtime to go to Jack in the Box. I've fallen twice on my bike and broken many bones at 20 and 15 miles an hour, so I'm like, if they get hit by anything, they're gonna splatter. So I'm like, oh, well, that's a parent issue, but anyhow, things to address. So I say engage school boards, let them know, work with local bike groups, generally said, to help educate children, bike safety and wearing helmets. Many of them I see just have their bike helmet, their bike actually not wearing it. Police work with kids on laws. I think you're working on this, but also thought about just doing like a bike DUI check, right? Ultimately, you have to do is stand outside of the thing and line the kids up and quickly enforce, you know, if your bike legal or not. Are you working on? Sure, sort of things to do, but DUI checkpoints work really well for drunk drivers, and I'm sure a bike checkpoint would work really well for kids leaving down Albany. You could like flag them, and I know this works because a colleague had it happen with his son in Oceanside in San Diego because they were violating it, and his father said, "Oh, my son has lost his e-bike forever because he didn't pay the laws." So, a suggestion. Saying yes, in Palo Alto, I've noticed spray painted signs on the sidewalk for skateboards, bikes, and so forth. I think that's pretty easy to put on sidewalks to ultimately enforce it if we make that an ordinance. And for downtown, there's no class 3 bike lane indications that I'm aware of. So class 3 meaning sharing a bike on the road and the route together. They have this in front of Eden and a few other middle schools, but perhaps downtown we can put that so people know that they can ride their bikes. We can slow down the speed of traffic and people using streets instead of sidewalks for bicycles. And so motorcyclists, and believe that some of these kids are driving motorcycles and go over place. Yeah. Just a matter of time before they get hurt. So hopefully we can help them before they hurt themselves. Thank you.
Good.
And I'd also like to thank everybody that spoke, and not only because of the passion that we heard, which I appreciate, by the way, but also because of the good ideas that came out of those comments, and I'm hoping that we're taking good notes about those good ideas. One that I really liked was the idea of doing something to alleviate encouraging bikes on sidewalks by putting bike racks that are hard to get to from the street. And I was thinking about the fact that we've got all of these parklets downtown. It might be reasonable to think about in strategic places to put a bike locker adjoining a parklet, maybe, so that it's not another obstacle. And I can't imagine a merchant having a problem with that because it might encourage more traffic there. Especially. But anyway, that's something to think about. The other thing that I was thinking about is the challenge that our police department has in terms of resources. It's huge right now, but even with an additional resource 2 or 3, it's still going to be a resource constrained problem. And that's not going to go away. But the one thing that I know as a parent and a grandparent that parents in Los Altos really care about is the liability that they have should something happen or somebody sues them. Right. So I think it's not only important to talk to the kids because the watches over the kids, but if the PTAs had a spokesperson that went there and said, let me tell you what's going to happen when your kid hits somebody on their e-bike, or the back passenger falls off without a helmet and becomes a brain donor at Stanford. You lose your house, you lose all your insurance, you lose everything. And then you live with that. And I think that the only way we're going to control this is to get to the parents first. Educating the kids is a really good idea, but educating the parents, in my opinion, is a better idea. I also really like the idea of considering a 15-mile-per-hour speed limit in the downtown area. And the reason I think that's important is because while the sidewalks aren't safe for bikes, neither are the streets. Especially for kids with diagonal parking and people backing out without looking at it. It's not a safe, and if somebody's going faster than 15 miles an hour, it's a dangerous place to be. So those are my three big points. I think if we restricted bicycles or motorized vehicles on sidewalks in business districts, then we avoid the unintended consequence of parents with little kids who want them to ride on sidewalks in residential areas. I don't think that's an issue. But in business districts, I think that's fine. And I think what that does is it reinforces the liability issue, because if there's signage that says no bicycle, something happens with somebody on a bicycle in that area, then that is a good deterrent. So those are my only comments.
Thank you, Commissioner Katz, Commissioner Banerjee.
I think all good things start with really clear problem statements. So I think putting something down in the problem statement, from my perspective, I see the safety of the people who are riding these bikes as number one. And I think, and I also see the pedestrians on the sidewalks downtown as also an issue when there's conflict between the bicycles and the pedestrians on the more crowded sidewalks that we have in town. That's what I see as kind of the issues. Now, in terms of addressing these issues, there is certainly drivers, which have been brought up by the community. And should be added as part of the solution of the plan, which includes finding those officers to join our lovely city police department at a time when it's really hard to attract and hire people that hopefully will get a stroke of license. And it also includes, and now I'm gonna start some of my points. Number one, engaging the school community. So that means the administration. It means the education that Sergeant Taylor has planned. This is essential at all levels. And it's not just essential at Los Altos High School or the schools down San Antonio area. It's essential on our end of town, Tom. The kids who go to Homestead High, the kids who go to Mountain View High also need this education. Even if their schools are not in the city of Los Altos, we have residents of Los Altos that attend those schools. And the parents, it's not just the kids who are missing moving, and I'm on public record here, but some parents aren't doing their job. Because I've seen what goes on downtown, and it's not just that you saw it once and have never seen it again. I've repetitively seen it, and it's shocking. Every time it happens, it is entirely, completely unsafe, and somebody is gonna get hurt. And it concerns me. And I think you just gotta engage the school community to solve that, because you're not gonna solve it with some ordinances and some other things like that. This has to become a priority for the school administration, and maybe that does mean it's gotta go to the school board. So maybe our council members have to take it to their school board friends and get this going at a top level. We are doing some naming and shaming. This is the second time in our commission meeting where we get these photos, and I know we're whited out, but I bet a lot of parents that looks outside that you name who's on it. So I think, not that naming and shaming is the way to do it, because sometimes that can incent bad behavior with teenagers too. So when you take it to the school, the experts who deal with teenagers have to know how to do that. But I think there has to be a sense of sort of privacy and other things. And for the advocates, there's another challenge that's been going on for decades. I found out about it when my son was in elementary school. So if somebody could solve this issue, this would help a lot. The state of California does not consider bicycles or bicycle education to meet PE education hours. Badminton, interesting. At badminton, and there's a whole list of other dance and all great things. Bicycle education doesn't count as PE hours in the state of California. And if some advocate could change that,
Let more kids on bikes.
we would not only
And
get
then
a
be
lot more kids on bikes, we would get them on bikes where they knew the rules of the road. And a lot of what's going on today is not just misbehaving, nobody has taught these kids the rules of the road. You have to have a driver's license to do this, or in the cases where we found out from staff, they have to have a driver's license to do it, they don't. So, or they do when, I don't know what's going on. But many of them probably don't. So the kids need the education and they need it from early on, and they don't just need it for these motorized e-bikes. They need it for riding a regular bike. Because you can get hit riding a regular bike and you can get hurt and you can get broken bones. And I keep seeing it on Homestead Road. And there was another one last Friday, which I'll tell you guys about when we do commissioner report. Okay, I'm talking a lot. That was my number one. My number two is, we also have to educate the community, because a lot of people don't know these rules. And I think teaching the community that would help out a lot too, because they drive, they walk on the sidewalks, they complain, they may not know everything either, so I think that would be really helpful. And I think, and we love it, we are very thankful, as previous commissioner said, of all the public feedback here. For those of you who are saying you don't need to ride a helmet as an adult, could you please be a good role model for these kids who are wearing a helmet and wear a helmet? For that, as a good role, and for your personal safety. And I realize that some of you may not like that, but of all these people who've been hit, the guy who has I saw two people fly up in the air this year on Homestead Road and come smashing out. Like, you get hurt. Okay, that's enough of my lecture. Yeah.
I just
Yeah.
want to mention one thing
Yeah.
about that. My wife used to work at Stanford Hospital.
Yeah.
And the nickname at Stanford Hospital for motorcycle riders were heart donors.
Yeah.
So, so do be careful and do wear a helmet.
Yeah.
Because it does make a difference.
And while we're going through this whole education of the kids and everyone, and I know Officer Taylor, I know you, the police department feels this way, but let's include in the education best practices for riding at night. Because one tiny light doesn't cut it, like light it up. And let's even display some of those people, if you've seen them riding around at night, who ride around really lit up like that, you know, you can see them and drivers will hopefully not hit them. I think the third thing I wanted to say is, before, I've already said that enforcement isn't, we gotta do behavior change, because you're not gonna be able to enforce every violation every day. You should do it, but we also have an infrastructure problem in this city. We are not Palo Alto, and we have not spent decades putting in infrastructure for bicycles and pedestrians in this city, and it is not safe for them to always be riding on the road. It is not safe, actually, in many cases, for them to be riding in the bike lane. And people may not like that, but that's a fact. And I'm gonna put it out there, I'm gonna start an acronym, and I'm gonna call it GET today. And it is going to be, for every proposal that you put up there for zoning rules, ordinances, yeah, you say the infrastructure check. Grant Road between Newcastle and Homestead Road. You tell me that kids should go and ride on the bike lane and then move back to the pathway right at that triangle, and you think they're not gonna get hit and taken out? They're riding on the wrong side of the road for a reason, because they see this. Check number 2, El Camino Real. When we realize these new bike lanes on El Camino Real, you're a mom. You got one of those new condos over there. You want to teach your 6-year-old how to ride to school. They want to start by putting them on the bike lane on that road. Yeah, you might want to take them down the sidewalk. So that's 2 business districts right now where I don't think we should be saying no bikes on the sidewalk. I think downtown, there's some reason for that because we have conflicts between pedestrians and bicyclists, and the idea of making a bike parking spot on the roadway, great. Let's do it. The next, what's the third GEC? Is the cycle track. It's like, check your ordinances against the cycle track. And then we can expand this acronym when people think of other locations that need to be tested against the ordinance rules. I know I'm talking a lot, but this is a big deal for me. The next thing is number 4. Let's see. Skip number 4. Oh. I think the other place that I've heard in the past that's part of our problem statement is the shared multi-use paths. So besides the downtown sidewalks, we have a few paths in the city. One is that one that connects between Los Altos and Palo Alto over here. Another one is the one along Homestead. So this is where pedestrians are walking. And bicycles. And if it was the old pedal bicycle, people can kind of come up behind, slow down, say, hey, I'm behind you, I'm on your left. But the e-bikes can go so fast that this is an issue and residents have raised it. And I actually agree with the residents who are walking their dogs or the mom who's walking her, kindergarten to school, or my high school, the middle schooler comes flying by. So we need to think about that as an issue too.
If I may
Yes.
ask a question, we're talking about e-bike and e-scooter ordinance, not about the infrastructure at this point in time.
But I don't think you can put, yeah.
I think, Stephen, just a comment, I think, and I think
I
the
don't-
comments are great because it's part of the problem, so I think let's get the comments into context and then, we can decide about that too.
The point of the comments is, and I started with this and I'll just reiterate, is you can't create a bunch of ordinances if you don't have the infrastructure in place for people to safely follow your ordinances, period. And so that's the point of the infrastructure. And I think, Sunnyvale has a sidewalk riding ordinance. They put it together when my son was in elementary school. It impacts the residents of Los Altos and our children who ride down to Cupertino Middle School. So I think they maybe wanted to start with banning bicycles on the sidewalk, but where they landed, and I don't have their ordinance verbatim in front of me, but I've had it before and their mayor has sent it to me. Because I've asked, because if my kid rides a bike on the sidewalk, is it legal or not? So I think it was for anyone 13 and younger, you'll have to check the age. You can ride on the sidewalk anywhere in the city. For anyone else, anywhere else, if it's safer, then you can ride the sidewalk. But nobody thinks it's safer, so I guess you as the biker get to decide that. There are places where I go back to when I was taking some of the school program somewhere. Yeah, I get it. If it's like Stevens Creek Boulevard and kids are biking on the sidewalk, especially if they're coming the wrong way, like as the driver went in and there, like, oh my God, you can hit them. But then there are places like that pathway going to Cupertino Middle School where it's like the sidewalk is kind of a safer way. So we have to take a look at what the problems are and what the overall solution is. I'm almost done. When we go to enforcement, I don't think just writing the ticket is gonna solve the problem. It goes back to behavior change. I don't know what you have now, Sergeant Taylor. Chief Galea used to have a for, I forgot the official name, but some diversion program. So if the kids on their bikes got a ticket, they could go to some training program and get, say why this is what you're supposed to do and why you're supposed to do it and how you'll be safer doing it. And I don't know if Stanford, somebody was doing that. So it would be worth checking on what happened to that program because it was before COVID. So I don't know where it went after that. I think I said a lot of stuff.
Okay, we can make a motion. Back if we need to.
Yeah.
Commissioner Schneider?
No, you're covered. I think we're done. Yes, thank you everybody for participating.
Okay, thank you, Commissioner Lee.
I'd also like to thank everybody for speaking. I think most of what we have here is an enforcement problem, and my sympathies to the PD. Understaffed is a problem, and we can't solve that here. Can't solve an enforcement problem with more ordinances. And teenagers who are already ignoring the vehicle code are not going to change their behavior because of the new ordinance. They're just gonna ignore that too. So that doesn't help at all. Yes, I think there are some ordinances that we do want to have in place, but we want to be fairly careful to not throw out the baby with the bathwater. It's not for everybody who is cycling up and down Foothill Expressway into a lawbreaker. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner. Commissioner Reynolds?
Yeah, sure. I'll try to be super quick too, because basically I just agree with almost what everyone has said. And yeah, do want to thank the folks who spoke. I mean, just really appreciate folks who are coming in, and from my perspective, it's super helpful to get people's really informed, sort of passionate comments. So really appreciate that. I want to echo, heard public comments and also from our commissioners about sort of perspective about relative safety. My family and I have spent a bunch of time downtown. I would say probably 100% of the time we have to engage with feeling unsafe from vehicles, and never have had an issue with any e-bikes, even modified, motorbikes. So I do see them, and I recognize that it is a real problem that it's appropriate for us to raise the bill here. So not downplay that, but just kind of keeping that perspective for sure. Super supportive of encouraging real actual e-bikes, pedal assist e-bikes ridden safely like downtown and throughout Los Altos, across Los Altos, in and out of nearby cities. I feel like that's one of the best ways that we can experience this area. And my family does that, and it's amazing. And I think it is possible to do it safely and sort of in a family way. I definitely wanted to second the idea of some way of signing or designating or painting bike parking downtown, or just otherwise making it clear that we can use vehicle parking spaces. I think if folks are on the sidewalks, that typically for a reason, in my experience, like other folks have said, but just seconding that. I know we should just think carefully about how we do that. For sure, we've been in a situation where we're on the sidewalk to park the bike next to a business that we're frequenting, or a restaurant or something like that, right? So see that all the time, for sure. Don't want to throw the baby out with the bathwater on banning, folks being on sidewalks. Exactly. We should just think carefully about I think there should always be an exception for when people need to use their judgment or just be safe, right? And I agree that we don't need to start from zero. I do think we've got great examples we can look at it in Palo Alto, Cissy mentioned Sunnyvale. So I think other cities have ordinances or policies that we can look at and go from there. Also just on street safety downtown, versus using the sidewalks, for sure, we experience that. Looking at Main Street in particular, folks are angled, parking on the street, and they're pulling out. That's not safe at all to be on the street. I would want to be on the sidewalk, right? So just thinking about that. Let's see, I heard the 15 mile per hour limit downtown. I would love to, take that up as a commission and see if there's a way that we can have that be part of how we address this issue. And would love to support that. I heard from one of the public commenters and asked for advocacy from the commission, but I missed what the specific ask was about SB Bike Coalition and talking to Assembly Member Berman. I can catch up after the meeting, just on quick on that, to see if there's ways we can be helpful, how to support that. Just my last technical ask would just be around, I'm really interested in concretely turning this into, recommendations or things we can move forward as a commission. So if we have any way to just talk through that or have it be an agenda item in the future, would love that. Sorry, I went a little long, but that's everything to me.
Great, excellent. Thank you, Commissioner Helmholtz. Mr. Bennett, did you have any final comments?
No.
Okay, good, good. Thank you all for your comments. I think, Stephen, you have, significant input, both from public comments and from all the commissioners. I'm not going to summarize or repeat, because I don't want to dilute all the comments, so please, if you could, consolidate that and bring it back to the commission, we can work on it. And I think, the recommendation made by Helmholtz, Commissioner Helmholtz, I support as well, maybe as a group to consolidate all the comments as an input into whatever decision that goes into this, I guess. We can do this at a future commission meeting. So having said that, before I go on to the next agenda item, do you have any final comments, Social? Right, thank you. All right. Now that we have done through this item, do we want to take a quick break before we go on there? So thank you all for coming. We'll have a 10-minute break.
You want me to email you?
Absolutely.
You can set it for.
We're gonna I'll back to it. You're missing fish.
Do you have a presentation?
No, I'm just gonna do a general discussion.
What do you expect out of this?
Just-
Do you want any questions?
You're more than welcome to.
Since it's a special, so you can, it's not just a branch.
All right. Yeah, we'll call the meeting back to order. We're moving on to agenda item number 6, discussion on Covington Road. We'll have Stephen make a few comments first, and then open it up for questions and comments. Yeah, go ahead.
Thank you, Chair. I bring before you a proposal that I'm currently working on. It has not been solidified yet. I have been in talk with the residents and the school about how we try to slow down some of the speed coming to. I'm proposing to do some road lanes width reduction. Try to encourage people to slow down. But until I've already presented to the school as well as to the residents. I got kind of a support, but I'm still trying to figure out exactly what they're supporting. So until then, I'm not able to give you the full detail of what's going on and what I'm proposed to do as a pilot study. But at the same time, I've noticed a major issue that I need to try to address. And this is just strictly for informational purpose only, something that is I'm going to be doing. That I wanted the commissioner to know why. No, you guys.
Wait 1 second. Yeah.
I know we've got a lot of speed control issues on Cuesta as well. Are those controls considered successful?
Let's wait for him to finish this and then we can come back. Yeah.
Basically, what's going on is this: out in Covington Lane is a standard travel lane. It's 12-foot wide, with a wide shoulder. So because of that, this bike lane is about 9 feet, 9 to 10 feet. So by doing that, we have tried to mitigate parents parking in the bike lane by placing no parking signs. That has not been very successful. So what we have done is we have also now implemented not only no parking signs, but these red curbs to try to get parents out of there. They're still not listening. Instead, what's going on is we're getting this situation here. The parents are actually queuing in the bike lane while they're waiting for the kids to come out of school. And I've observed numerous incidents where because of this situation, the kids are either traveling in the travel lane or they're actually on the bike and they're dodging other students walking. And it's coming to a point where it's kind of a dangerous situation between pedestrian and bicyclists. I've also seen numerous bikes dodging cars trying to park there like this, where kids don't know where to go. So because of this situation, we're now at a point where we need to somehow regulate the cars from going into the bike lane. So what I'll be doing is I'll be installing delineators along the edge to start the process of making the lanes feel a little bit more narrow. Until I get consensus from the school and from the parents, I'm not gonna move forward with the pilot study. But this is the first step of trying to make at least this bike lane safer for kids to utilize out on the road. So this is just strictly an informational session. Yes, sir.
Are you done with the presentation?
Yes, sir.
Okay, let's go to the questions. Commissioner Lee, you had a question first, then go ahead.
Yeah, I was asking about Questa, but let me back up and change it. Are you trying to make this class 4?
No, I'm not. It's already, we already have a bike lane that the cars are violating the bike lane. So because they're doing this, it's no longer a bike lane. The kids are forced to ride on the road in a very unsafe situation because they're riding on, in the first place, they're going the wrong direction to begin with. So it's complicating the situation in the fact that not only have kids going the wrong direction, the parents are parking illegally and try to park and queue and wait for the kids. So this is typical what they're doing. So I'm trying to get I'm trying to protect the bike lane from the vehicles so that we have a clear path of travel for bikes.
Okay, what did you mean by delineators?
Delineators are basically about a 1-inch diameter plastic pylon that is about 3 feet tall with reflectors. In fact, let's find these up. One of the locations that you can currently see is on El Camino Real. This kind of gives you an idea of what it looks like. It's basically is a plastic pylon, basically. Basically, is one of these that you actually put stickies on the road itself. You could drive through it without causing significant damage to the cars, but you actually clearly delineate where they should not be crossing.
Are those the same ones that we have at Almond Avenue, similar?
Yeah.
Any other questions?
Actually, you'll see some of those on Jordan after our last research.
Go ahead, Commissioner Schneider.
Okay, so if a car hits that, is it not, it's just gonna, and then flip back up?
Yeah.
Okay.
If you get hit enough, then you won't,
Well,
but they went to replace it.
Or not, but anyway, so over in Mountain View, by Grand Middle School, I believe that's one of the main streets over there. Anyway, have you seen what they've done over there? Okay, they have that, plus they have it's like a curb, but it's a foam piece that's maybe 5 or 6 inches tall in between those. And it prevents the cars or anybody else from, it could hop over all that stuff, but it's a very distinct delineator. And so that's something to look at. I think those were really good ideas to have it because it's right by the school.
Yeah, the purpose, the reason why we're proposing delineators, because we do have some in stock. So it would not cost the city any money, or for that matter, any delay in doing so.
Except for installing.
So installation will take probably about a day.
So. You say all the reason that the problem is because cars are parking in
The cars are parking in
there,
there.
so we're dropping off or whatever, it's. Wherever the cars go, where are they park? If they can't get in there with the.
Well, what they'll have to do is they have to go a little further where there is some curb parking. Or they have to park in the neighborhood, which I've already spoken to the neighbors, they're fine with that. Because then it forces them to walk to the school to pick up their kids. And by doing that, it actually alleviates some of the traffic issues and speed.
Okay. Sunnyvale, it put in some new. Leaders around, like Mary.
Very.
Yeah, it's terrible. They're perfect each other. It's a school and a tennis court. So they're doing this better where they've actually shut off. Extends out into the thing. So if the car makes a right turn, it can't just make it closer. You have to swing out wide. It's interesting what they've done because I used to like, well, this is different. But they're doing a couple of variations.
What I ultimately would like to do is I would like to ultimately do a pilot study in this area. To A, slow down the cars, and B, stop the cars from making illegal U-turns in front of the school when you have kids in the crosswalk. But before I could do that, I need to get a buyout from the parents itself. I already got a buyout from the school. There's still some questions that the parents have. So until I could really understand what their concerns are, kind of have an idea, but until I have that further dialogue, I really can't implement all the pilot study, pilot program that I would like to implement. So, but for right now, I need to protect the bicyclists on the travel lane. Because like I showed, there's cars that's queuing in queuing there. And I've seen numerous near misses that kind of makes you cringe. But at a minimum, I'm proposing to put delineators there to at least get them start getting conditioned into a little better.
Okay, ask a quick follow-up on that.
Sure, go ahead.
What else would be on your wish list that you mentioned if you had consensus with the parents?
In an ideal situation, I would like to put red curbs in further so that they're able to see on that curvature, they're able to see that their kids in the crosswalk ready to cross. I also would like to put delineators in the center line of the road to keep the parents from make that left turn into the school or left turn out of the school, make them only make right turn. So they're seeing the number of conflict movement is significantly reduced. I would like to, in an ideal world, that is what I would like to see. Because then it restricts some of the left turn movement that's causing some of the issues with trying to jump out before some cars coming at fast speed. But there's some resistance or some questions about if I were to do that, how does the circulation will go around that area? So I need to, like I said, I need to have further dialogue with them. But until then, something I could do is very simply is to protect the bike lanes.
Other questions? Yeah.
I'm not clear, is this Covington Elementary or Georgina Blanche?
Both.
Yeah, Bullis is on Blount property, they're the same school.
Blossom Bullis.
So it's like eastern stretch of Covington.
It's not Covington,
It's not Covington school.
The problem is not so much at Block because they have big enough parking lot for them to go and do the drop off and pick up. It's actually Bullis, which is actually on Block's property.
Yeah.
And their parking lot is really small.
So it's a charter school.
It's a charter school.
For fun, if they stagger the start and end times and share the same drop off and.
So,
Spot.
like I said, this is just strictly an informational. This is something that I will be implementing because we already have all the materials.
Okay, any other questions? Okay, all right.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I guess do we know if anything's changed at the school that would cause this to actually occur? I mean, we saw the same thing where we implemented changes to road structure, which ultimately caused more challenges with Almond and then to El Hardin, so, I've been down this path, so I'm glad you're engaging them. But do you know of anything that's changed at the school,
No,
or is it just a need to?
engineering wise, the road was designed just how it should be. You have the standard 12-foot width road, the curvature, the geometry is such that curvature of the road is accommodated for the speed and so on. It's just through the years, as more people are utilizing the area, as charter schools now in there, you basically have 2 schools there. Because the parking is not big enough for what they need, people are now parking wherever they want to pick up their kids.
Student body could increase.
Can you put the slide back up for a second that shows the red curve and where you're gonna put the bollards?
Yeah. And just for clarification, Commissioner, not ballers, actually delineators.
What's the difference?
The baller is a 4-inch diameter steel pipe
No, I
that's filled with
understand.
concrete.
It was my.
Not all bollards.
I misspoke. So the red curve, where, is it gonna be the entire length of that area?
Right now, the red curve is from this
Yeah.
wing of the apron all the way to this wing of the apron.
It was repainted since.
Yeah, that's an old Google Earth.
Yeah.
That's
It's
an old-
actually,
Yeah, it's not like, that's not the current condition.
That's 3
Yeah.
years old, so.
Right.
Okay,
so basically you're looking at from here to here is already red. And cars are still parking there. We have already taken step measure to try to discourage them. First, the signs, that's not discouraging them. If you see, let me show you.
so assuming that the cars that are now parked in that area, once you put those barriers up, what are they calling them? Then they shift over to before where it starts, right? That's what your expectation is?
Yeah, basically, it's my expectation here. Just show you.
When those cars then shift there, does that simply move the problem?
What I'm trying not to do is, I'm trying to not do that. So right now, this is a Google Earth of, here's Bullis, there's Block.
Yeah.
So right now, the parents are trying to park along here. And what they're doing is they're actually parking here to queue and come into the parking lot itself. So the thought is if we make it uncomfortable for them to park here and cannot park here.
Yeah.
There's few parking space here. There's people that they can park here in the neighborhood here or here and just simply walk over and pick up the kids.
Okay, and what about, so they're coming right from there to there. And so would they simply just park further back that way in the same bike lane?
Basically, the cars are parked here and I believe it is red curb to part of here.
Yeah.
And part of here. So if they cannot park here, you're actually closer parking in the neighborhood. The thought is, like I said, I've already spoken to the residents in this general area. They won't mind having cars parked there because now it encourages kids to be walked and they can use the crosswalk.
Any other questions?
No.
Okay, all right, so I'm gonna open it up for public comments. Any public comments on it? Please you have to come back and you have 2 minutes.
Quickly on this one.
2 minutes.
Even outside of
Recently.
Eric Hula, I was already before. Even in this situation where this is not school in and out house, you end up often with cars here. So you have this very nice bike lane and it disappears.
Thank you.
This is.
Are there any other public comments? Okay, all right. Just want to come back for quick comments from everybody. If you have any comments, and then we can go on to the next item on the agenda.
I mean, I'll make a comment, just looking, even though some of these photos are 1 to 3 years old, I'm Google Maps. I mean, there's a bike lane along the entire street, so
Yes.
I mean, the reality is, are we just pushing this problem up or down the street? And people are still making left turns on Covington over into the residential zone, so that solve the concern you had around a U-turn or a left turn. And it's not a double yellow, so they legally can do it. So I'm not against what we're trying to solve. I just wanna know, like, are we just solving for this one little stretch, and what does that stretch solve us, which the other areas may not address?
Again, it's not my intent to push the problem out.
Yeah,
What I'm trying to do is I'm trying to make them park across the street and walk over. So if you go far enough away, hopefully they're not gonna wanna go, next street over, park in the bike lane and walk over. I'm trying to do a little, human engineering here.
Yeah, I know we are, and I just think of humans, we've seen this once in our city, which created a massive issue, and so like, well, you're engaging in this school, which is great. Hopefully they can also implement some policies on their own. And we know we only have one traffic enforcement officer, so they could sit out there and ticket people really easily. And get them in red zones, problem solved real fast for short term, right? But we don't have that option. So.
Yeah, no, that's why I already reached out to the residents. They said, would you object to having them park in front of your home?
Yeah.
To walk and pick the kids.
Any other comments? Go ahead.
So did you reach out to the school itself, like
That's what's the principal,
okay. So-
and he's actually favored it.
Okay.
Comments?
I do, but Wesleyan's not his hand.
You have a comment?
I'll just do one quick one. Yeah, building on what Scott said and just saying, if there's a way that, Stephen, you can contemplate extending, stretching out the delineator part of the street so that it, really gives people a second thought about whether they wanna walk that far or, make a different choice. I would support that. And then, on top of that, like, if there's anything else that we can do to just support you in trying to do the wish list, and get whatever you need in order to get that in place, that would be great. That's it.
I'll just say, yeah, I support this. I've seen the same thing at Homestead High School on Homestead Road. And the delineators were put up just near the drop-off zone, just before, just during, just after. And it's not that every problem has gone away, but it got rid of some of the really bad problems right there. But it also was good to have a plan of where you want the bikes to access campus, come on and off campus, and to try to keep them out of conflict with the cars.
Yeah, on this particular situation, it's not the kids of Bolus that's using the bike that's causing the conflict. It's all the bikes that's coming towards Bolus from the high school and the schools up the road.
At the same time. Yeah, so, I mean, and then obviously, it's just worth watching. The distance of the delineators needs to be expanded after your initial thing, but I think start, where you think. And then there's the elephants in the room, a couple that I already poked at, which is, why do these schools have to start at the same time and end at the same time? And why can't they share that drop off that works for one school and the other school seems to have a problem? And then the other big elephant in this room was the map you showed just at the bottom of that map wasn't visible on the screen. There's a back entry. But at the back entry, it says no school pickup or drop off. That's the really big elephant in this room. It's half the stuff can be moved back there.
I've already asked that question, and first place, Bolus is not able to utilize that back entry because it does belong to the block.
The back, from the school.
Yeah, and so it keeps people from utilizing the back entry. Not to mention that portion of the residents have fought tooth and nails in the past.
Yeah, but if we're causing safety problems, Stephen, we have to, in safe routes to school is a priority, then it needs to be prioritized. And I can't even comment on the bullets. People can't use that entry.
The residents of the only block being able to use it, not Bolus.
They don't want.
They don't want anybody, but it's available for blocks
That's the first
still.
thing I asked. when
Yeah.
I was trying to do this.
That seems like.
There's another
Yeah.
school back there too, you're with the Christians.
Yeah, but just a second. So Block is saying they don't want Block parents to use it?
No, the
Yeah,
residents.
they don't want Bull
They
as
don't
kids
want
to use it.
anybody
The residents don't, but Block doesn't want Bullis to
No,
use it.
it's not blocked, it's,
Oh, okay, it's all right.
it's the residents who doesn't want it.
Oh,
So-
so yeah, but it's causing a safety issue. It was out, that was out, there was a big meeting one time where there was a joint commission meeting and a joint council meeting, and I'm the only person left on this commission that was serving at the time that meeting took place. And we were asked by the mayor to solve the problems around that school. And one council member had asked us, who was our staff liaison at one point, to look at opening this back up, and that has never come to our agenda. So it's a big traffic problem over there. And I readily, this is a public meeting, I readily would advise friends and family to use that back entrance, because nobody's gonna give you a ticket.
I concur with you, it is a safer alternative. But
Are there signs there dictating this?
Yeah.
Legal signs?
Oh, yeah.
That's state.
City signs?
City signs say,
Yeah,
no,
state.
no drop off, no drop off. I don't know how enforceable they are, but they are official looking city signs.
Okay, all right. Any other questions? Oh, sorry, other comments? Commissioners, any final comments? Okay, Stephen, I think you have some inputs, from everybody here. Do you, the only thing I don't want to turn into a question, but just from a comment perspective, this is a pilot study, and I'm assuming that there is a time frame associated with it, then you have a pre and post report as to what you're expecting out of it. And do you want to make a comment on what's the period of the study, how long you do this?
the thought was to go ahead and make it a 1-year pilot study, see how effective this is. Like I said, I cannot do the study without the support of the parents, and that's what I'm currently working with. I already have the support of the school, I just still working through the process with the parents.
All right, okay, thank you. I don't think.
Sorry, can I just add one more bit of advice? The other thing that I've seen work in all the schools my son's attended is if you have the support of the principal, have the principal send an email out to the parents.
He has been very supportive.
Yeah, like, this is what we're doing and this is why we're doing it, and please follow this. Yeah.
Yeah, that's a good point. Anything else? Okay, good. Let's go on to the next item on the agenda. Let's see. This is the subcommittee report on streets conditioning projects, and then I think Stephen, you have an updated list as well.
Yes.
So do we want to do the list first and then go to the subcommittee report?
I think so.
Yeah.
I think it's good that the commission, the entire commission, take a look at what this looks like and then go through the subcommittee.
Okay, all right.
The list that I have presented before you is the proposed micro resurfacing in the next 4 years, just like I brought it up in the last commission meeting, the mill and overlay. This is very much heavy into the safe route to school, because all the location that has been proposed for micro resurfacing are safe route to school. Except the first two on your list, on this list. Is first one is Main Street from State Street to Foothill Express, and the second one is State Street from First to Main. The reason why this is not the reason why I'm proposing this is given the fact that the downtown is supposed to do numerous parklets out there. Once the parklet is installed, it'll make it very difficult for me to maintain those roads. Not to mention, there's a lot of restriping that needs to be done in the downtown area. So if we go ahead and try to be ahead of all the parklet installation and go ahead and micro resurface it and restripe it, my thought is at a minimum, we could extend the life of the road for 7 to maybe 10 years. At that time, when all the parklet has to be revamped or renovated, we could go and do even other treatments as necessary at that time. So the thought is by doing this, we will go ahead and address a lot of the striping for these downtown area. Like I stated before, all of these locations are safe route to school. The other reason why it was selected for those locations was not only PCI and safe route to school, but a lot of these locations are, the striping is fading. And we need to do some striping in these locations. And for me to put in place new striping that I'm gonna have to remove after a couple of years doesn't make sense. It doesn't make economic sense. So my thought is, since we have to go ahead and stripe it, let's just go microsurface it. Is the PCI condition is low enough that it does meet the criteria.
How long does the striping usually last?
It depends. I'm proposing to use thermoplast with beads so you really stand out at night. The good example would be Jordan. I don't know if you've driven that road at night, it really stands out. I'm proposing to do the same
Does that
thing.
last long?
They last a while. They do have some, how do I say? I don't know what they have on it, but it does last. That's pretty much the standard.
The reason I ask is you said, 2 years, and then I'm just wondering if that use painting would last.
You will last it.
So that's, you're done with your.
Yeah, I mean, just kind of give the commissioners just a sense of what those locations are. You're more than welcome to take a look at any one of these, and like right now, it's university, basically going to be micro resurface from end to end. There are a few spots that I do need to do a dig out to repair some of the isolated asphalt deterioration that microsurfaces will not be able to address. At a minimum, I've created the list. After the commissioners agree that this is an acceptable list, I'll be engaging with the consultant to start really analyzing the road to see what are other stuff like dig outs. Probably have to repave a small section. University also, it does have a drop off where we did not maintain the shoulders very well. So as part of this micro resurfacing, we're gonna restore the shoulders so there's no drop off.
Okay, before we get on to before any questions, does the subcommittee want to do the report? Who's gonna do that?
Your preference, Steve. You want an initial comment or?
No, I mean, I think, Suresh is asking for questions for the commission.
Oh, yeah.
I want to give the subcommittee
So from the subcommittee perspective, in terms of questions, we asked a lot of questions in the meetings that we had with Stephen and Art, and we got very candid answers, both on both lists that you got in front of you. What I don't want to do is get into comments with the questions. So from a subcommittee perspective, from my personal perspective, I think all our questions have been asked and answered. And to go through that would just take a lot of time right now. And so I think what I'd rather have happen would be to see if there are any other members of the commission who haven't been part of that process, who have any questions that they would like to get answered.
Okay.
If there are questions.
Okay, and then does any of the other subcommittee members want to make a comment?
Yeah, I was just gonna make one really brief comment, if I
Go for it, yeah.
could, just part of the exercise as I saw it, for us to go back and have this additional meeting and this additional exercise was to just kind of double check the list and make sure that, Stephen was comfortable with incorporating some of the comments that we had from the prior meeting, with the full commission. And then on top of that, we wanted to look at the list of the streets against sort of what you had asked, Suresh, which was make sure that we're analyze how we're looking against the complete streets map and if there's a gap. And it seems clear to me from meetings we've had, engagement with Stephen and Art and that group, that everything we're doing 24-25 planned, plus the stuff that's sort of out of scope for our work, like San Antonio, et cetera, is touching on as much of that complete streets master plan as is possible in that period of time, given budget constraints. So the prioritization looks right and complete and comprehensive to me. And then I think once you're looking at out years, you are looking at, I think, completing the rest of what we're calling like the Los Altos Loop and the high priority streets there. So I think it does appear to me that we are tracking that, if that makes sense. And we happy to talk through that in any more detail. So make sure I spoke to that.
Okay, right. Scott, do you have anything? Your policy committees,
I was fortunately unable to make the last one, but my only question, based off the resurfacing of the downtown streets, I guess it's not a question, it's a comment.
Yeah, go ahead.
Or question and comment, are we considering shrinking the size of the parking spaces along the roadway? I ask this because spots are extremely large, which is wonderful. It's also unique, given we're low on space. And so has that ever been evaluated, the actual size of our parking spaces in downtown? Because I know we're low on spaces and they're really large, like compared to everywhere else I park. You can fit a F-150 under with ease. And it'd be, if we can maximize, right, to have them standardized parking spots that are labeled, which really maximizes units.
I have not looked at it yet, so that's part of the design phase.
Okay.
I know what you're talking about. One thing that, I need to let the commissioners know aware is the number of parking spaces may be reduced to begin with because of daylight elements, that I'm currently writing in that public works for council. Say daylight ordinance, basically it states that at so many feet away from the intersection, you have to be red striped or red curb, so you do not allow cars to park there. So by doing that, it actually has an impact of what, reduction of 7 parking spaces last time I kind of counted.
In all downtown.
In all of downtown. Not to mention, we are kind of evaluating right now the parking lot 1 and 2 for the park, the theater, and the underground. So that means parking lot 3 is gonna stay. Parking lot 7 and 8 is currently being identified as subsidized or surplus. So we're looking at possibly a development in that area. So the downtown itself, it's gonna change. And the parking itself is gonna change. So, yeah, I understand the parking is wide. And it's kind of nice, to tell you the truth.
Oh, it's lovely. I just know parking's a scarcity.
Yeah,
It's
but
gonna get
it's gonna
worse.
make it scarce,
And so as we're considering.
Yeah, we're
resurfacing
gonna try to
parking.
standardize the parking.
Thank you. That's it.
So since
Go
we're
ahead.
giving comments.
Why don't we go to questions first,
Yes.
and then we'll get to comments. Other questions, both for staff and for the subcommittee. Questions?
Yeah,
Or you want to make comments?
I can just make any comments it goes.
Okay. But if it's relevant to others, so go ahead. Okay. Commissioner Shaka, do you have any questions? Any questions? I'm just comparing the list we had from last time to this time. Can you quickly walk me through the delta? What it is of this?
Oh.
Because I'm seeing that there's a 25% addition into the budget for this year.
Correct.
I just want to see what was it subtracted, added, or changed.
What, okay, so right now, behind the scene, we're going through the budget, of seeing what is gonna be the carryover from last year's budget to this year's budget. We actually have savings on this year that we paid. So there's gonna be about $1 million and change being carried over to this fiscal year. So because of that, I'm trying to maximize the utilization of that, because as we get, the list may change a little bit in the upcoming years. So I'm trying to maximize our utilization of the available funds. So I was able to add Newcastle from Grant to basically Fremont, the whole stretch, which is a safe route to school. I was able to add it onto this. Now, keep in mind that the money that I'm currently estimating does come a little bit low budget, but I don't know what the material cost is gonna be. So I'm trying to give myself a little bit of a margin, just in case it does exceed what our budget allocation is. But because I did see that I could add one more street to add and still be close to what I'm proposing. That's why I am on Newcastle. That's the only modification on the overlay. Otherwise, the rest of the list is pretty much the same.
Was there any adjustment done to the 25, 26 project list?
25. Only thing I've identified is Springer. But if we have savings this year, I might try to bring another project up from 25, 26 and adjust the list. Or I may just roll the money over to the next fiscal year and make the 25, 26 a little heftier.
Then, the surplus from last year, was that because of just projects coming under cost, or were there some projects not done?
The list that I had when I first started with the city was pretty extensive, but it wasn't, the list wasn't as extensive as we should have. And not to mention, instead of all hitting one budget, I actually spread it out over multiple different capital projects. So we actually had a little bit of a savings that way. So it's not just one project, CIP budget that got impacted, it was the cost of spread. So that allowed us to have more of a carryover this
year. Commissioner Holmes, you were mentioning something about the comparison with the streets master plan.
Yeah.
Is that somewhere documented, what, is this list versus that? So we have some kind of a live map going that says, okay, this is what we're doing this year, and how that kind of maps onto next year.
We haven't created that, no.
Okay.
Basically, what I did is just looked at the list that Stephen has put together with our support and mapped it against what I see in the Complete Streets Master Plan. And essentially, we're prioritizing, it appears to me, as much as we possibly can, while also taking into consideration just budget and pavement condition, which I think is what I understand council wants us to do. But I think, I think it could be helpful to do that, to create map overlay for some kind of visual aid or some kind of just, documentation that shows how we're tracking. I agree with that.
Any other questions?
Sorry, I think I'll ask questions.
Yes.
But just briefly. The first question is, I think last time I raised the point of when we look at these streets, just don't think of a safe route street. If a street is not a safe route street, but if it intersects with a street, a safe route street, did you guys take a look at that?
I did look at that, but surprisingly, some of those streets that you're mentioning, that's a pretty good index, pretty good PCI.
Yeah, but if they're showing up here and you're doing surfacing work on them, then if they intersect, if this is a safe route and you're resurfacing the perpendicular street right at that intersection, shouldn't you be looking at striping improvements?
When you're coming to an intersection, it's a normal practice for you to stripe it. It's normal practice for you to go and mark a surface it through the intersection and go to the each ends of the intersection itself and stripe it all the way through. So you're setting out for the future improvements so that you have a clean point where you're gonna butt to it.
Yeah, so got it on the paving, but I'm talking about striping improvement. When you're doing that, making striping improvements at that perpendicular where
Yes.
approaching this is the safe route street. As you approach the safe route street at those last few feet on a non-safe route street,
Those will be striped.
and will they be striped for safe route improvement?
What is on the complete street recommendation, it's what is gonna be implemented on this.
Yeah, so I think that's a gap. Because a lot of the safety challenges happen at the intersections.
Oh, well, just to clarify, when I say all the striping gonna be done, it's not that you have a safe route to school and you have a non-safe route to school. That does not mean that this non-safe route to school is not gonna have a refreshing of paint. Because you have to go beyond, like I said, you have to go all the way to the end of the returns. That means that if there is a crosswalk that is not on safe route to school, but intersection with the safe route to school, that crosswalk will be fresh.
Yeah,
I think the question is not just refreshed, will there be safe routes to school elements implemented?
Yes.
will it be improved from a safe routes to school perspective? That's the question. And then will it not just be the crosswalk, will it be the couple feet leading to that intersection?
May I interject something? We spend a lot of time talking about, there are specific roads on here that are major roads, for example, where there may be safe routes to school improvements that are proposed because of changes in striping or changes to make it safer. And one of the concerns that the commission wanted to make sure was comprehended was the fact that we don't want to go through another Jardine, neither does the staff. And so we needed to make sure that there was sufficient community involvement if there were changes, so that we didn't have surprises like we had on Jardine. And what Steve and Art talked about was that, yes, that they would do that, and in some cases, that might mean bumping something down the list because of time constraints in order to get all that done, and then something else might have to be promoted in place of it. And so we covered a lot of that ground. What I found to be really refreshing was that in all the years I've been on the commission, we've never been involved this early in this level of detail around this kind of work, to my knowledge. Well, this far out. And, you know, what's a lot more in stone right now is what's gonna happen in this coming fiscal year. And a little in the next, and beyond that, it really is kind of visionary. And what Stephen and Art talked about was that that would likely shift a little bit as priorities could potentially change. But I think that where there are things like Stacy's talking about in terms of new striping and new safety features, that we just want to make sure from a principal perspective that the commission gets involved and that the community gets involved up front.
So can I just give an example to bring this to life? So I've looked through the list, I found an example. Labor Court intersects with St. Joseph to the end of it because it's a dead end. It's basically across the street from Montclair Elementary School. That Labor Court is used as a parking lot essentially for parents taking their kids to school. It's a crazy little street. I actually have friends who live on that street who have had to walk their kids to school. Like, you could probably at that intersection, not just the crosswalk in front of it, but the few feet before that intersection, do some striping to improve it. And I don't think this means a whole huge community engagement or whatever. There are some places where I think there's city prerogative to, this is a safe route to school. It's across the street from the school. It intersects with the safe route to school. Parents park their kids are trying to walk from the kids and parents trying to walk from their parked cars to the school. People who live on that street trying to do things. Like, we're missing an opportunity if we don't take a look at that. That's what I'm trying to say. We're missing an opportunity to improve safe routes to school if we do not look at the striping of a street that's indicated as a non-safe route to school, but it intersects with a safe route to school. If we don't look at the intersection and the immediate few feet behind it. And I don't think that everything needs a giant community meeting.
Commissioner, if I may.
Yeah.
Some of the things that you're saying, that the detail that you're trying to go into is, we're not there yet. We're just trying to approve the list. The design.
As long as you're planning to go there with the detail, that's my point. I don't need to talk about the details of the striping. I just need to know, like, you got this ball.
Yes.
Right.
Question now becomes is, how far of a limit do we extend it to address it? We have a finite number of money. So for us to keep chasing that, it may not be feasible for us to do, where it may come to a point where we're gonna have to start dropping some projects to chase that situation.
understand, but for example, a street across the school. You know,
Just to let you know,
Yeah.
that street is pretty well striped. And I've already looked through that little street
okay, that's
and
good.
it's very well striped.
So that was probably striped well when Cedric was here and the parents raised it to Cedric, but there's probably other streets that didn't go through that process. I think I'll park that item there.
Well, I think if you look at Jordan, for example,
Yeah,
you see the whole Jordan,
Yeah.
the Jordan, right? But you see the side streets, they did
Yeah.
do improvement, and that's what we used to do during the time frame. So we do look at those.
but that's when you do the safe routes to School Street, but when you do a side street, the inner.
Well, some of those are
do
side
that.
streets, right? They're not
Yeah.
all, they're not all the same.
Yeah.
So we did do improvements on those
Yeah.
side streets.
And then the other question I had, just quickly, I meant a quick question. You have on this list somewhere St. Joseph from Ava to the end, and I'm assuming by end you mean to 280, for which I can talk about it. I'm surprised to see that on the list again, because I thought we just repaid all those.
It's very low PCI.
I don't know why, but okay. And then the last question I had is, Chair, I think you brought it up at the last meeting and you were asking, was all the infrastructure done that was in those safe routes plans and the complete streets master plan? Did we get an answer to that?
You want to restate the question?
Yeah,
Okay.
so at the last meeting, the chair brought up at the end of the discussion, which I thought was a really great point that I missed. Plus, in the complete streets master plan, there are multiple sections. One of the sections is, what is it called? The safe routes to school. Improve, yeah, and then there were two things in there. There were the maps and there were recommended improvement maps. So the route maps for kids and the recommended improvement maps. And the chair asked the question, did we finish off those, did we complete those recommended improvements?
Or is the list incorporate some of those recommendations?
Yeah, oh, okay.
And what I've said at that meeting was the fact that during the design, we're gonna look at it and try to implement it as part of the design. At this point in time, we're just trying to get the list approved. We do not know until we actually start the design process.
So let me ask it maybe a different way, and I don't wanna go out of scope. So then you're just looking at the streets that are paving projects, and you're abandoning something that's not a paving project, so let me bring it to light. The intersection of Arboretum and Diodara, one of the infrastructure improvement things that didn't get done in phase one was at a four-way stop sign. And like, where does that project go? Make it into a
Oh, it's not
four-way.
done.
I think.
Yeah, well, where does that project go? Cause that was in the improvement plan.
Okay, I'm not aware of that improvement plan. At this point in time, like I said before, this is just gonna create a list of proposed projects in the upcoming year. If there's any particular location that you would like us to observe, we'll be more than happy to look at it, but it has to be identified as a CIP project.
So I think one of the things that we talked about with Stephen was where, one of the things that became clear in our conversation was that there was a sense of urgency to getting the CIP list and the evidence done quickly, because if the city doesn't have the opportunity to go out to bid for the work that needs to be done in this fiscal year, then the likelihood is that a fraction of this is gonna get done. And it'll be a much smaller fraction than that could be caused by delaying it.
Yeah.
So we haven't talked about the work plan for the coming year. But when we talk about the work plan for the coming year, my vision is that what you're asking for right now is a fairly big chunk of work. A chunk of work that means that that's going to have to be looked at in addition to the CIP plan to say what has to be done at what priority. And I'm sure there will be some flexibility to say, does that mean if something else gets bumped? Is there the ability to do that within the budget that's comprehended? I think that's work to do. Our commission did not do that.
Yeah.
in this go round?
So that'll be good, I think, if that gets looked into, because I don't know if it's in the CIP or not. But I thought we had a phase one, do you remember this, Suresh?
Yeah.
There was a phase one infrastructure plan and a phase two infrastructure plan, and I thought Jaime, so I thought somebody had put them in the budget, and I haven't gone and looked in the CIP to actually see if the phase two was entered in the CIP. But there was a project.
So I think, I think, yeah, I think the way to solve, obviously, this is a micro surfacing, resurfacing plan, which is in the CIP budget. The idea of adding additional projects that come out of these other improvement plans is something we should talk about as part of the work.
So we can make suggestions.
What's that? I think so. When we get to the work plan, let's talk about it. So let's park it into that, yeah?
Yeah.
Okay. All right, any other questions specific to this list? Or I guess, yeah, we can make this if you have comments as well, let's do it now. But I will open this up for public comments anyway, so if you want to hold off until then, you can do that. Any other questions? No? There? Any other questions?
Something else.
Okay, I had my questions answered. So why don't we put the public comments? Do you have one public comment? Go ahead.
For the record, I'm Jim Wingman, Milverton Road. First of all, I want to thank you for including the university in the plan there. That is much needed and it'll be welcome. Now, for university, Steve mentioned that there is a bad payment section. Well, that's in the Milverton corner, 145 feet to where beyond the speed hump. The maintenance supervisor and I have talked this over, and the SU 20 A, B, and C solves one, the edge of pavement breaking off because of the buses and the trucks that go in there. It solves number two, the lateral magnolia tree roots, which are going under the pavement and buckling it. And number three, it solves the drainage problem, whereas there is always standing water in the travel lane at where the speed hump is. So therefore, and typically contractors have been paying about $264 a foot for the SU 20. So it's a tolerable number, and it's about 145, 150 feet that you have to run it down there. So that should be included in terms of what Steve mentioned. There's some repairs to go. The second one is, where is Giffen? It's not on the list anywhere. And Giffen is a 2-block long street. It is in this in CSMP, and it is designated a safe route to school in the CMP. And it's CMP that describes the work to be done. And basically, the work to be done is really on the north side of the street, is to put in the same sidewalk that you put on St. Joseph about 2 years ago. But it's not in there. I went back and looked at some prior ones, and I sort of feel that the consultant who did the surveys missed that. I mean, it's there, and it's got missing chunks of pavement on it. These are all the criteria. And also the city manager's door opens up to Giffen anyway. So I haven't told him about it yet. But, so therefore, you've got to put that street in, because again, here, the students, basically they're walking in the street, and they're down at 8 o'clock in the morning, around 35. And this is parents, siblings, and students, and they're using the crossing guard and Monty to go to Covington. So I don't know what happened to it, but I couldn't find it anywhere, Steve. I looked.
I've looked at Giffen and it'll be about $1.5 million construction.
Do you want to respond? Just let him finish his comments.
Yeah, okay, it needs to go on the list, whatever happens, so that it isn't lost. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Jim. Stephen, I'll give you an opportunity to go ahead and comment on.
Yeah, I'm very aware of Giffen, and I'm very aware of it. The problem is we don't have the money for it, nor was it identified in the previous budget. That is a type of project that it has to be very specifically defined for that. The condition of the road is such that it's not gonna be a simple mill and overlay, it's actually gonna be a full-blown reconstruction. So that's the reason why it did not make the mill and overlay, because it's gonna pretty much eat up the whole money.
All right, so I'm gonna bring it back for any additional questions, no? Okay, all right, now that let's go to a final round of comments, yeah, let's do that. Who wants to go first, comments? No comments, but Commissioner Schneider, no. Commissioner Katz, yeah, no comments.
I'll wait till all the other comments. then
Okay,
I'll say
Commissioner, no. Then do you have any comments?
I don't. No, I'm sure. I mean, if you keep giving me a chance, I'll say something.
What's that?
I said, if you keep giving me a chance, I'll say something.
Yeah.
Those big streets, we need the community engagement. I think that's-
Okay, then if you wanna make a comment about which.
That's it,
Okay.
that's it. They'll be obvious.
All right, so.
Okay, the only comment that I'd like to make is that, first of all, I think Wes and Scott were terrific on this commission. And I wanted to thank them, they're new on the commission and on the subcommittee. I want to thank them for volunteering for the subcommittee. I think that their involvement was extremely valuable and that it's reflected. So thank you so much, guys, for joining me for this. The second thing I was gonna say is that when we ended our last meeting about a week and a half ago, I think all of us were in agreement, both staff, Steve and Art, and the commission members, that we had pretty much done what we had intended to do in this phase of the work. And I think that we can end the subcommittee for this phase at this point. So I just wanted to make, and I don't know if any action has to be done to do that, or just to acknowledge that we're pretty much done with this phase, and at this point, staff will move forward and do what they would normally do in terms of getting the work done and bringing to the commission those things that would require some judgment, if there's major kinds of striping or other issues that need to be discussed.
Okay, thank you, Stephen. Do you have any comment? You said you wanted to make a follow-up.
Yeah, I just wanted to make a quick follow-up comment, say thank you, Steve, and also it's been a great experience working with you on the subcommittee and just appreciate, your, sort of learning from you and how you approach stuff, and I think it's an asset to the city, so appreciate that.
Thank you. So who's pending this? Well,
I just had a quick question.
yes, sir.
Where's Given Street?
Given
Oh,
Giffen is,
Giffen.
Yeah,
I
that leads to
thought
coming.
you said GIV.
No, yeah.
Where's that?
Yeah, think about El Monte, yeah.
Okay.
It's north of El Monte, and you would use Giffen to
I
sort
just
of
had to
approach
spell
it.
it, correct.
Oh, gotcha, okay.
So I just want to give staff an opportunity to see. Commissioner Katz has put on the table, we need to continue the subcommittee about it, but. Staff to comment on, do we need to keep that committee going, or do we think we've accomplished what we need to do for this space of the project?
I think that we have.
Okay, and that's the subcommittee, we. All right, so I would. Officially closing down the subcommittee as of today. It's important because we have another subcommittee coming.
So you bring the gold watches, Suresh?
What's that? Yeah. So thanks to the subcommittee for working on this and staff for putting up with the subcommittee. Thank you. Let's see. Let's get to the next item on the agenda, which is the discussion of the work plan. So I want to approach it in two phases. I would have the staff maybe give us, and I know that you've had discussion in front of you, so what is getting a work plan done. In terms of getting the work plan done, For next year.
Yeah, July, no, January.
For January, so can you lay out a timeline? I know that you had some say, input from Alyssa's.
Yeah, basically, she wants it, because I think they haven't scheduled yet, but they're going to schedule. Right now, they're thinking January is scheduling, the commission, to council presentations. But that hasn't been scheduled yet, so that hasn't been confirmed. But that's the timelines, getting the work plan done by January.
So I'll wait till I have, do you have any comments, Stephen, on this? No, okay. Before we actually get to the work plan, I'd like to see if any questions regarding just the timeline of what we want, what the work plan needs to be. From the commissioners.
Just, what time you speak.
What is the timing and
Yeah.
what's the
Yeah,
expectation?
yeah, I was curious about just like looking at the calendar, like I think we have November, we don't have December, and then we're probably in front of council, so. Yeah, glad it's on the agenda today.
Yeah, okay. That's what we're trying to accomplish.
Yeah.
I had a qualifying question and maybe we have to take this off line as well is, so. If you look at the commissioner's handbook, there's a slight modification. I see there's a slight maybe modification in language as to the work plan is the output of. Needs to incorporate the output of the city strategy and priorities as well. So given that if we have a work plan, then if there's recommendations from the city council pass their strategy in session, are we going to come back and look at the work plan again? Do we know?
There is just an update, there is a commission handbook updates, which I will be presenting on the next meeting. There is a couple of changes in there, so just to let you know, like they want like a more standardized work plan where every commission looks the same, doesn't look different from anybody else, so stuff like that. So we actually just got that training today. Exactly, more of a template, so.
So because this is the reason why I'm bringing up this is if we work on a work plan now, and if something different comes out of the city council strategy, how are we going,
Well, we could make an adjustment, right? Just basically make an
But
adjustment.
last time, if you remember, there was a significant difference in the way we would approach, right? Last time, there was a shift in how, I think, Aida, you were also part of this is, where the council gave direction as to, we were going to focus on, safe routes to school and not PCIs and so on. So that changed, what we had originally thought about as what the work plan would be. And so that's why I'm wondering is, so what we're going into this is like an input, is a draft of a work plan, and then that gets, worked to make a final plan based on city priorities, is that how it's going?
Assume that's okay. So,
Or maybe we just don't ban, if we meet with council in January, maybe we don't disband the subcommittee until we've had their feedback and it comes back.
And it's a work in progress.
Yeah.
The new template is gonna clarify what is expected, and it is gonna be very simplified, and all the commissions are gonna use the same
And do we
template.
know when we might have that?
yeah, as soon as I get it, I'll definitely forward the new template.
Oh, that's great.
I haven't gotten it yet. We just got the training today, so.
But the expectation is that we use that template for this.
Exactly,
Right? I
because
see, okay.
it's gonna be a standardized for every commission, so that the council knows exactly, each one.
And the subcommittee that would be potentially formed tonight would have this template to work on with staff between now and our November meeting.
Is that correct?
We should have the template.
And the subcommittee will work with staff to sort of fill in that template.
Yeah.
And if we don't have the template, then I think the subcommittee needs to create something without the template, because it's our only time window to do it.
And I'm sure we can adapt, into whatever the template ends up being.
Yeah, the template is basically just a spreadsheet, and you're actually more, it's not as bad as you think. It's just basically more clear. It comes to.
It's more of a
Basically,
format.
it's like a spreadsheet. You just plug in, your work plan for each, and there's a calendar, which we actually could we'll be able to, see the progress of each,
Okay,
each.
that's great, yeah.
So
that's
there is
fantastic, yeah.
also a calendar.
Yeah, that's great.
Art, you wanna for the working fair that was.
Yeah, so one of the updates on the new commission, is not it's gonna be a new one, which I will be bringing up, but instead of ad hoc, they're actually including also, it's called a working pair. So basically, And we don't need your approval of, like an ad hoc, you need approval to form it. So it's basically two people or one, work on their own, and you could actually work, you can work with staff, you don't need to work with staff, you can work together. So they want more opportunities for you to work together. But
Sorry.
the,
Can I clarify?
sure,
When you say it's two people on the commission, not
two
like
people,
anybody.
two people on the commission.
Yeah.
But the thing is, you cannot speak to any other commissioners.
As long as you don't do it.
Sounds like a
It's like a-
subcommittee.
But that's what working pairs, so they're like, they're so.
Something new in the hands.
But the thing is, you don't
It sounds like
you don't need an approval
It's
to
less
form it.
formal, it's less formal.
You don't need,
You just do it.
you don't need an approval to form.
Yeah.
You don't have to go by the six.
We didn't used to have it until last year.
It's just an option. It's not like, it's
Hold
just,
it back.
it's an
Yeah.
option for the commission to have these things. If you don't wanna do it, that's fine. It's an option. You could do a working pair.
Okay, and you can,
So that's just,
can you have multiple pairs?
A different.
what's that?
Don't ask questions on topic at that, I'm not because if.
Exactly.
Then we.
Exactly, that's why I wanna,
I don't wanna.
As soon as I get that new handbook out of order, so we're in that form.
Okay, all right, so let me bring this back. Now that we had some time,
I think two commissioners can always talk to each other anyway.
Yeah.
Like,
but I think it's, they take input into the process. So
And
that's-
then you come back to the commission and you can talk about what you.
you can be on the agenda.
Exactly.
How much time have we allocated to this agenda item?
30 minutes.
So we have what, 15 left?
Yeah, so I think,
So I think what would really help whoever is gonna be on this group. All right, either the couple of two or the subcommittee, whatever we decide to do. It would help them, I think, if the commission as a whole took that 15 minutes. And said, what are some of the priority items? Just brainstorm them that we think should be in a work plan. And from a commission perspective, for the next 12 months, what are the priorities that commission members? Because one of the concerns that I have is we're gonna leave this meeting, we've got another meeting in November, and then we're basically done until January. And so the more thought we can get at the front end of it, and it doesn't have to be right, it just has to be kind of getting stuff out there.
Yeah.
Usually that would be,
I think
that. I don't know how everybody else feels about that.
no, that's how I was gonna approach it, is to say, let's go around the table. Let's have comments from everybody as to what, we would like to see as part of the work plan. Then we form a work plan subcommittee that takes all the comments. And discusses into a work plan that we can then look at next meeting. Aida, give me 1 minute, yeah, I'll have you, let you make a comment, having said that, why don't we form the subcommittee first? The work plan subcommittee first, so that way the committee can be prepared, listen to comments and so on, I'd like to take volunteers now for the work plan subcommittee. Who wants to volunteer?
Sorry, my comment was on that item, so I just
Yeah.
want
We're forming a
Not screw it up.
Okay.
So,
Yeah, we wanna make sure we form a problem.
even though you haven't received the training from Art and Steven, it's okay, I just confirm that you can form, but call it a working pair, don't call it a committee. So tonight, you can choose two people, you can vote, or no vote, two of you can work form the working pair to work on the, work plan.
But we can do a working pair, can't we also do a subcommittee?
Why
Because
can't we
the-
not?
Not erasing the ability to do something.
The agenda says that we can do a subcommittee, and our current operating handbook until we have new training says that.
We would have to verify, but I know an ad hoc take that 6 steps or how many steps, when it was in the agenda last time, you have to go through all that. This one is more informal, the other one is more formal. So that's the difference between those two.
But we're on the agenda.
Yeah. The question I think is this, is if we form a working pair, and I would like to, Ida, for you to clarify, if you form a working pair, by default, if commissioners want to provide input into that process by email, into that committee, that would not be possible. I don't see how the working pair would work, because let's say, one of the action items we take away from today is that commissioners can provide by email any additional comments they have I'll just call it a subcommittee for now. To the subcommittee, so they can put that together. A working pair would not be able to do that. No, but
Staff can.
exactly, yeah.
So if you go through Art, like you individually provide that, at the next meeting, you can put together a draft of the work plan, and then you can discuss it at that time, if that's how you wanna do. So the Brown Act, we follow the Brown Act.
It seems like there's not much of a difference. The big difference is 2 versus 3 people. And if people.
And being on the agenda or not, and you are on the agenda,
Yeah.
so.
So is there, I just want to get, is there an objection to forming a subcommittee?
With the training that we provided today, I think we better wait with the trainings provided, so we follow. I don't have the slides with me, and we're gonna be receiving them. So I just wanna make sure that we follow that. Do you have any comments, Art, on that?
Yeah, they did some changes, I just don't want, I want to make sure the changes, it's not different from
Yeah,
what.
but we don't have the changes
We
yet.
don't
We
have them
don't have the
correct.
changes.
I
The
think
city
we can
council
still
has to go
operate
through the
on-
changes anyways.
Yeah.
My proposal, let's form the subcommittee for now.
I think if we form the subcommittee, but they have to do the motion of statutes include the following 6 bullets, if we pronounce that and we put it on record, I think we can form the subcommittee. These are the 6 bullets that needs to be part of the subcommittee.
And then, look, if next month we abolish subcommittees, we just form it as a working pair. Does that work for?
We're not abolishing,
Are you
Okay, great, then we should be fine.
yeah.
Are you
Right.
dissolving the current subcommittee?
Yeah,
Yes, already done.
that's already disbanded,
Yeah.
so.
Yeah.
But and then you have it in the agenda here for
Yes.
me, so then nothing.
And then we just have to state that these 6 establishments are, for this. If you state that, I think we should be okay with the subcommittee.
Yeah, okay, so let me just read it.
Yeah,
just for-
just read that.
For the record, right? So we're forming a subcommittee to work on the 2024 work plan. It will be comprised solely of commission members. Establishing a ad hoc subcommittee consists of less than a quorum, so we'll take up to 3 members on the committee. It'll include the defined purpose, and the purpose would be to come up with a work plan, working with staff to come up with a work plan for the 2024 proposed work plan for the 2024. Sorry, 2025. Yeah, 2025 year. The subcommittee will do a final report and will terminate once the work plan is complete. That is a proposed work plan, and then feedback from the city council. And when that feedback has been incorporated and worked with staff to complete the work plan. And we'll only reestablish or renew this after the end of the work year for next year. So we will not be renewing for multiple years. And of course, this subcommittee is advisory in nature. The idea is to come up with a work plan with staff in order to advise city council. Yep, okay, all right. So now that we are clear, let me take volunteers to be on the subcommittee. Well, volunteers.
Suresh, I'm happy to volunteer for the next one, although I would say if other folks want to crack at it, feel free, but I'm happy to. Yeah.
You can't, since you abolished the other ones.
Thank you.
Exactly,
Thank
exactly.
you, Commissioner Helmholtz. Anybody else? Anybody else?
We'll have 5:30 meetings. Yeah. Okay,
Any other, anybody else?
just
We're gonna jump around.
one person can be a worker there. Okay, so-
Nope.
How many times do we have to meet?
Well, the thing is, you actually don't need to have staff support, but for this one,
Yeah.
definitely, but you guys could meet anytime you want.
Emails.
Yeah, exactly. You don't have to have like a formal meeting every time.
Yeah, but I think for the work,
It's definitely, you'll need
Yeah.
staff support on that, but you could also do multiple, other meets if you emails to each other or that kind of thing. You don't need to have staff there.
I don't think either art's there.
Not moving on until we have a committee.
Good ones.
I'll be on for 2. Thank you.
That's anybody else?
That's a working pair.
And I'll be on, I'll be on the.
Okay, great.
Great.
So,
Okay, so now we have that subcommittee. Let's go around the table and I'd like to get everybody's thoughts on. We can transcribe this later, but we're getting everybody's thoughts on what you think. Be something to be on the agenda for next year. In addition to this is obviously, the CIP projects are set and that's be part of the work plan. So beyond that, let's look at a few things. Before I do that, let me have public comments done and then we'll come back. So I'd like to take now public comments on agenda item 8. Oh, I have one.
Hi, thanks again for letting me speak today. I am speaking today on behalf of Safe Roads to Downtown Los Altos, and we did send a letter in, but noticed it wasn't in the online packet for public comment. So just to make sure that everyone hears these important topics. We're asking the city and the Complete Streets Commission to include significant and impactful pedestrian and bicycle safety improvements in the 2025 work plan, and to utilize AB 43 to reduce speed limits where possible. And we spoke about that earlier, specifically like downtown would be a great opportunity as they are similar in school zones. One area, San Antonio Road, as you all know, we have this amazing grant opportunity with the county that is so very, very exciting for any of us who lived here and, you know, walked or biked to downtown. This is just such a problematic high traffic area between the town and the neighborhoods. And a lot of kids actually do ride bikes. They ride on the sidewalks because the bike lanes are not safe. I've ridden on the bike lanes there many times. It's really scary. So we would love to see that grant be utilized to its full extent. And then also in the interim, utilize any options under AB 43 to consider reducing the speed limit, specifically between Foothill and the Almond because of the high school and because of the downtown. And there's so many pedestrian crossings in that area. And then the other area is Foothill Expressway, because there is going to be multimodal feasibility studies starting. And what we're just asking is to become very active and proactive. Speaking out for the people, not just kind of like seeing what happens with the county, but let's be really involved in this process and make sure that we are pushing for protected bike lanes, safer crossings, getting rid of slip lanes at Edith and Main and those kind of things, because there are students crossing there and almost getting hit on a regular basis. And it you know, will benefit downtown. It'll just make it so much nicer for everybody to be able to safely cross at those intersections and come to and from town on their bikes. And commute through our town, not worrying about their safety. So thank you so much.
Thank you. Okay, all right, so I want to come back. Why don't we go around the table for comments? You want to go ahead first?
I'm gonna go last, please.
Okay, it's fine.
Yeah, I have a couple. You mentioned the CIP projects, of course. I also think that what should be in there is a it's something that it came up today when we were talking about the whole e-bike ordinance. But I think it's more than that. I think that what was clear from the police department was that they don't have resources to do what they've signed up to do, which is educate with the schools and the parent communities. And I think there needs to be something in the work plan where we take a look at with the staff, what are the alternatives that can help this department out there? They may not have staff, but they've got budget. And perhaps the last consulting organization wasn't doing what needed to be done, but maybe that's something that we could look at, because I think that could have a real impact on big reps to school. So I think they're giving an education on it. The other thing I think we should look at is the thing that Stacy brought up, which were gaps between priorities, which were projected and perhaps in past budgets that were in the master plan that actually haven't been implemented, and to identify those in such a way that they can be overlaid onto the CIP and maybe and to look at what the budget consequences of those are. So those are the two things that I can do.
Okay, thank you, Commissioner Katz. Who wants to go next? Okay, Commissioner Banerjee.
I had 5 things I wrote down, more repetitive. Safe routes to school education across the board, which includes the parents and everybody. It's like a huge, huge program, Palo Alto scale. 2, safe routes to school infrastructure. So we have paving and resurfacing projects doing, and also getting CSMP and safe routes on there. Fantastic. Let's just keep every year moving full steam ahead, as much money as we can on that. 2, infrastructure projects for safe routes to school, including the phase 2 stuff that was kind of planned with the CSMP. Let's go back. Thank you, Commissioner Katz, for supporting that. And 3, the San Antonio grant. Let's get moving on taking action. Number 3, traffic calming.
4.
Oh, is that number 4?
Yeah.
Oh, the safe routes to school stuff, I put all those things in together.
Including San Antonio.
Yeah, because it's a safe route. I had 3 sub points and.
Yeah,
safe
Southern
routes. And the 3rd one is traffic calming, and even before Jill spoke, what I had written down is what we should be doing is slowing the speeds down where we can using the state law. AB 43, that's been on the to-do list for several years now. We could have been ahead, and now other cities are getting ahead of us. Let's take advantage of it. Number 4 I had is let's work with partner agencies, those that are adjacent to our jurisdiction, that come into our jurisdiction. Neighboring cities, we just did a round with Caltrans. Let's take a look at the end of their project and see how that worked out, and if there's any issues that need follow-up. Jill mentioned the county. And number 5, let's please go back and look at the old CIP list or those old project lists that maybe didn't make the CIP. So let me give one example, Cristo Ray Drive. What happened to that project that Jim Sandoval told us has to be done because the city's at liability if it's not done? So that's just one example. So those are my list of 5.
Great, thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Perfect. Thank you. Commissioner Schneider.
No.
We still work on it. Okay. So, state's part of the one, traffic calming. But, that's kind of, good work plan, there's so many additional things to do.
Yeah. Okay, perfect. Commissioner Lee.
You guys got nothing.
Okay, thank you. Commissioner Holmes.
Yeah, I think I just 1 or 2 things, and I'm not wedded to these necessarily. I confess that I don't know exactly what this commission needs as far as work plans, so I defer to folks who've served on the commission for a while to prioritize and help us figure out where to go.
On the list, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So one thing that Stacy mentioned, partner agencies, I think alongside that, it's clear to me that we have some neighboring communities that are super, knowledgeable and we can just learn from. So is there a way that we could sort of benchmark and coordinate with Mountain View, Sunnyvale, Cupertino, Palo Alto, the main ones that come to mind. The other thing is coordination to facilitate we are complete streets, right? And so we don't want to end at an imaginary border with Los Altos. And so there are unincorporated areas and city, the neighboring cities where I think it's helpful for us to coordinate. That came up with the subcommittee with Stephen. We're talking about Springer, becomes Mountain View, and that's part of our work. And it really wouldn't make sense for it to have an entirely different treatment, just because it's Mountain View. Ways that we can understand how to coordinate that. So that was something that came up in county, should be a piece of that. And just, agencies like Stacy supports, VBAC and those folks, just ways that we can work that into our work plan would be amazing. Other than that, nothing else to read.
You all covers what I had. Yes, go ahead.
One other thought. In some of the major categories, like the ones that Stacy talked about, I would add into traffic calming, the whole downtown area that we talked about tonight. And call that out as a specific thing for traffic calming.
The only thing that I wanted to add to the item was, like, go ahead.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I asked to go last, so.
Yeah.
Okay.
You usually go first.
I do.
Thank you.
Yeah, for mine, and I'm ready now. I was for bike racks in and around the city. I don't know what we have, maybe this is a naive statement, but bike rack inventory or placement. I'm gonna.
There is a map that shows all the bike racks.
In this track,
Downtown only.
Downtown only, yes.
so there's not how many are in schools or anyplace else?
That's already not our jurisdiction. That's-
Or like say it is Safeway or something like that. No,
It's not our jurisdiction, that's private property.
so when you.
Next one, pedestrian safe walking road shoulders. Oh, we want people to be safe and it's a safety thing. They need to be able to walk on the shoulder safely, even during the rainy season, so. 3 would be, I don't know if this is a part of the Safe Routes to School for Children, but aside from, I have no clue where these exist. Some cities have signs, some people have seen the like road icons that are like. Does it exist?
For cities, wayfinding.
Yeah, like wayfinding, yeah, like something clever and fun, but anyhow, something that would actually indicate where kids can know where to go versus actually using a map, so. That, number 3, number 4 would be traffic calming measures like small roundabouts or trees and meridians of roads. I think those are, I see a lot in Berkeley, they work really effectively. There's a few in downtown Mountain View, I like them there as well. Those are great ways to set up. Again, those topics. Thank you.
I just thought of one that I think might address it, or might be opposite, but. And in past years, we've spent a lot of time talking about bicycle and pedestrian participation in safe routes to school. In other words, what are the programs that can be used to increase the amount of kids that are biking and walking? And we haven't talked about that very much recently. And I was thinking about bike racks, bike racks. But there are other things, and it ties into education and some of the other things that are already on the list, but maybe that should be pulled out as a separate item.
So can you be more specific?
Yes, increasing bicycle and biking and walking to school.
So yeah, so this is something that I was gonna mention as part of this effort is always, we still need to start measuring where we are against what goals we set with the Complete Streets Master Plan. The goals we set saying we want to increase biking and walking by 10%.
Right.
So I think
Right,
that's,
quantitative measure.
yeah, this is something that we should think about, you know, as getting a consultant or whatever to do an update on where we are.
Point as well. Really briefly, I think this might have come up in the prior meeting, but I don't know what we as a commission can recommend or do necessarily, but I've seen pretty successful programs in the past where you had goals that you could make available to, let's say, like high school students, around like frequency of biking or number of trips or miles or anything you want to do, track that somehow and give them some kind of reward. Who did it? Think about a program like that. I have no idea if that's something we've done in the past, but
That's we talked about before.
yeah, I think it might be interesting. So just along the lines of what Steve was suggesting.
We should get an update from Andrea to see what she's done and where she's at with the.
Andron is not no longer the city of Super.
Okay, do we have one?
No, at this point in time, we're trying to figure out what would be the most effective way, because when we had the consultant not see a very good positive result on the expense that we have expended. So right now we're trying to figure out, okay, what other options do we have to do the education?
Yeah, and that's Yeah, that's part of your San Francisco.
Yeah, and your point is right,
Yeah.
like what's our measurable progress towards our goals in the plan? Yep.
Yeah, something.
Yes, go ahead.
I would be happy, I'm sure members of the commission, not gonna be able to be a consultant in the same way that those folks were, but like, to the extent that folks were like going to a school, and talking about bikes, and pedestrian stuff. I mean, I'd be open to doing that. Yeah, exactly. There we go. All right. But just not all like 20 schools in our district or whatever, but like, yeah, we do it too, but.
I'll make a
yeah,
list for you.
Yeah, no, maybe as something to consider, like,
Yeah,
if we identify things that we think would be value added, like
Well,
talk to students.
we have been talking to Greentown, right?
Yeah,
Stephen,
Greentown.
so we've been talking to trying to get a few groups to help with the education part, so.
Yeah, I think a mobilization of getting a bunch of people to become league certified instructors. And then supporting the police department's program would be fantastic.
Love it.
Yeah.
Okay.
They're just pointing out. Where this is in. She
Yes,
was just
yeah.
saying that she used to do.
Yeah.
She was certified for that.
Yeah. Okay, great. So I think we have a pretty good list. Are there anything else that we want to discuss before we, before the subcommittee goes off on and starts to work on this? I think I would say it would be good also if anybody has some additional items or nuances to that, what is in the list that we made today, you want to provide comments to.
Yeah,
Send
send
it
it to me
Send it
and
to Art,
I can pass it on.
Yeah, make sure that you don't send it to the commission. please
Yeah,
send it to
don't
Art,
send it to the commission.
And then he can forward it to the secretary.
But the subcommittee can email each other.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
We can email or people who are not up, so.
All right, yeah, Steph, do you have any other, do you want to add anything to this?
No.
Okay. All right. Okay, now that we're done with that item, let's move on to the last item on this, on the agenda, which we moved to the end from the beginning, which is electing the chair and vice chair for future meetings. So just a quick process update. Art will call for nominations, either self or other people nominating members of the commission. We'll take the nominations for the chair first, we'll complete that. And once that happens, then we'll do nominations and election for the vice chair. Nomination itself will happen, the nominee can accept or self-nominate. And then we'll go through a quick round of votes to elect the chair. Before we do that, any questions from anybody about the process that we can answer? I'll just hand it over to you now.
All right, so any nominations? Again, this is, as soon as we get the vote here, you're immediately the new chair, the vice chair, immediately. And then it goes through next September. So then we'll vote again in October and.
Any reason we can't nominate the current chair to remain as chair?
No, that's the one thing, so I'm gonna, but yeah, I think
Okay,
it has to be a you. So, any nominations for a chair? Is there a question? Oh, there's a question. Please, it's not a question, or you nominate yourself?
We all want to nominate Suresh.
Commissioner Pietro had a question. You had a question.
I was gonna nominate.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, I think, as stated in the handbook, you cannot nominate the Wakanda, so it's, I think they did. before.
What happens if you have another volunteer?
Multiple terms before, and then, well, this thing expanded. There was, because you guys sort of.
No, are you sure that?
My only.
What is that?
Let's bring the meeting back to order.
Humility.
I'm still chair, so.
I haven't heard any other nominations for chair, so.
We have it?
I'd like to nominate the incumbent vice chair to
Okay.
become chair.
I'm declining that.
Go ahead.
That's what I was worried about.
Yeah, when I signed up to be vice chair, I knew that my 80th birthday was coming this year. And I decided I would be the vice chair, but I'm getting a decision in and I'm saying with that I'm not gonna be the chair. But I would like to nominate Stacy as the chair.
Second?
Thank
No,
you
this
for
year,
that
so this year-
nomination, but I'm declining that nomination.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah, thank you though, thank you.
And as stated on the handbook,
I'm gonna give her a copy.
I stated on the handbook, no member of a commission may serve consecutive terms as chair. So just to let you guys know, the handbook does say, no member of the commission may serve consecutive terms as chair, meaning that the chair must change annually. That's what it says on the handbook.
She can be nominated.
She can be
You wanna
nominated.
do it?
Yes.
I don't know.
We-
Can you nominate?
we-
No, she can be.
I can be,
Yeah.
but I'm like Steve, I'm declining the nomination.
The
And
sooner we get the chair, we can go home. So,
if we don't
I would
have
like to
one,
nominate Wes.
okay, not, Wes, would you,
That's not what I expected.
oh, we need a second, we need a second.
Second.
Okay, second.
But
Wes is JD.
I feel like I'm just looking around the room and I feel like it might be the best way for us to, get home at some point, yeah. And opposed to it, although afraid of the circus of wheel. Yeah, I mean, I'll give it a shot. I mean, I would obviously be happy to serve, so, if that's what we want to do.
So Scott, no,
Okay, other nominees.
yeah,
Second.
you second, Tony. Second that. Any other nominees for chair?
Any self-nominees for chair?
Yes, any self nominees.
you can still nominate yourself from Steve.
Okay, all right. So we should take a vote, let's go for a vote. Yeah, does everybody vote for Wes as the new chair?
Yes.
Yes.
Unanimously passed. Congratulations.
Never saw it coming.
Yeah.
All right, the next thing is vice chair. So, any nominations for vice chair?
Go from chair to vice chair.
Well, good question. I don't know.
Yes.
Actually can, yeah.
Yes, that's allowed.
So are you nominating?
I think he just declined.
I think we're reading the
I
handbook
think he said-
closely
I
right
would
now.
really like to have somebody on.
That's, and not what
I
nominations?
nominate Scott.
So we second that for vice chair?
Second.
I
Okay.
think, oh yeah.
Scott?
I'd be delighted.
All right, so let's, congratulations,
No, you can take it.
Oh, we take a vote?
Yeah, you can.
Everybody vote? We all, if we pass?
I don't, can you vote for yourself?
Sure, vote for yourself, okay, so.
I can't vote for myself, you all should know.
Stakeholder. I'd like to thank everybody for your support and it was an honor to serve the commission. And congratulations, Commissioner Helmholtz, and I'll be happy to help you with.
Appreciate that. Amazing.
Okay, so you take over.
Yeah, you take it.
All right. So we've done the last item on the agenda. We actually got there. So I think we still need to go through the last few,
There's nothing here. so-
yeah, there's nothing here. Do we have any staff reports?
No, not this time.
We have information on it.
Okay, do you have an information on it?
No.
Oh, okay.
Let me just say that, there is a couple of things, new crosswalks have been installed at, San Antonio and Hillview and San Antonio and Hamilton. And the one on Fallen Leaf and Homestead has been fixed. There was one, sign that was broken, so it's finally fixed this morning. So,
Oh, I was gonna say,
Homestead and Fallen Leaf.
no, it's not, okay, this morning.
It's this morning, so that's enough, so that's just,
Thank you.
Go ahead.
I was just gonna thank you. I was gonna say the new crosswalks on San Antonio are great, the new signals.
Yes.
It would be terrific, by the way, if there was a way to get a third one in the middle of the median that simply was synchronized with the other two.
Well, since San Antonio's done, so it's,
Yeah,
it might be a puzzle. We'll definitely look at
San Antonio and William.
There's San Antonio and Hillview and San Antonio and Hamilton. Those are two new crosswalks. So,
Usually,
Granted, Morgan seems to be broken again.
that was a new system.
Seems to be broken as of this afternoon.
Yeah, nobody reported that, so.
Take
If you're reporting, okay,
There we go.
I'll look into that. Yeah. That's the thing is, we're not gonna go to every crosswalk and check everything, so if you do find something that's wrong, please, public.
You're telling us things break.
Yeah, exactly, call me, so send me an email.
Okay. Maybe.
Okay, Friday morning.
Yes, sir. Do we have any commissioner reports? Oh, sorry, I didn't mean to bypass that.
So what I was gonna say is that probably a lot of people are against it, it's being paid. And I was gonna say, I'm not sure if it's being way ahead of schedule, because I know they started up in Palo Alto, but they got the paving down in Sunnyvale area. Not completely done, but like 2 to 3 lanes going one way. And so the conversion part is like, that's being done, and I think faster, but it's gonna ask you, is that ahead of schedule? Or is it just,
There,
looks like it because of paving?
it's really, honestly, it's very hard to tell. Because we keep getting 3-week look ahead from Caltrans, and things change that night. So it's hard to tell whether they're ahead of schedule or behind schedule. I cannot tell you that. There's a lot of confusion. Yeah, I mean, they're actually. What I have observed is the number 3 lane is still not paved. It looks like the number 2 lane has been paved, so I have. The last notification I got from Caltrans was the fact that they're gonna do the whole thing at one time, but they're not telling me exactly what they're doing.
This is the number one, the one closest to the middle.
Yes.
Because what I saw was down there, it was, that one wasn't done, but the middle and the right were both good. That's in some areas.
In
down
Sunnyvale?
there, I believe that's what it was, but maybe part of it. But that's what it was.
Yeah, the only thing that I know for sure at this point in time is they're gonna come out in December and restripe. They're actually gonna do that during the daytime. Because it's too cool. So I don't know what that will have an impact on the traffic.
Sure, well. Because it's pretty, all of a sudden it's paved and I didn't see any stoppage during the day.
One thing that kind of surprised Ada and me when we went for a drive is we saw delineators on El Camino on a short stretch on Mountain View, and then it just stops. There's no striping, there's nothing, just delineators.
Right.
I was like, it makes
I
no
want to
sense.
say that, the initial plan that they had mentioned the logistics, they were gonna pave in a way, like a racetrack, lane 1, all the way from Palo Alto here, but the logistics change. And like Steven mentioned, when we got there, we're like, oh, this was done. So in some ways, I wanna say they're a little ahead, but we don't know. We're gonna have an updated construction meeting at 1 p.m. that all the agencies that are being paid on Monday. So Art can send you some updates, or actually our PIO sends information out on the latest information that we receive. So, but it changes day to day, and is.
And every time their schedule showed one thing, and then we get notice at 5 o'clock that they're starting work at that 8. What?
Okay. Is that everything you have, Tom?
Yes.
On information? Yeah. Anybody else have anything else on that?
Oh, I have a different.
Oh, yeah, okay. Moving down to commissioner reports. Does anyone have a commissioner's report?
Yeah, I do. So from the VTA BPAC meeting, just to give you guys updates, I think before I told you how they were doing that long range planning. So now they've transferred that into a business plan for just the upcoming fiscal years. And they're trying to make it into more of these measurable, like specific specificity. So I think that that's actually going really good to see the visionary stuff being moved down into the specificity. It was also an informational item, but they're gonna be doing an annual report with sustainability and on the climate action plan that VTA is using, which is a lot of internal stuff for them, including their fleets. And then they're also doing a lot of looking at disaster impacts. So for them, it's like floods, wildfires, like how that will affect service and planning around that. So it's good to see that. And then we also got an update on the VTA kind of owned, controlled bike lockers. Largely, they're the ones that sit at the train stations. So all our nearest one is in Mountain View. Those lockers today are individuals get a locker box, and they can keep the box as long as they want and hardly pay anything for it and not really use it or put whatever they want in there or like that's going away. And it's going to be a temporary use, shared temporary fee for pay use. If you have the magic app or however they're gonna do it.
Flip a card.
Yeah,
First come, first served.
yeah, first come, first serve.
That's a good idea. Probably better.
Yeah, and I don't know if they're gonna get as sophisticated. They're right now trying to get sophisticated on those bike racks on the bus. To get systems to tell where you can look to see. Bus, should I kind of get that bus or, but, I don't know that they're gonna get that sophisticated with the lockers, but nevertheless, big change coming in lockers and I think change for the good. But there's still ability that you'll be able to rent them overnight or something like, we were kind of asking at the BPAC, the limitation that. You can go to the airport and be there for 2 weeks, yeah. So we were kind of stretching the things to see what the business plans are. Now, VTA has also said, like, maybe once they finish, they're gonna do the station updates in 2 phases. And one will be this kind of fiscal year, I think, in next calendar year. And then they also made some comment, like, then they maybe wanna look to see, can these lockers be put anywhere else? And I think the first idea was VTA properties. But then there were some people on the committee, kind of including myself, because I remember former Commissioner Ambio talking about these ones that we had by Lucky's, right? So so the ask to VTA was, can you have a program where then other agencies can opt in and say, hey, we want these lockers at this kind of place, this kind of program at this place, so. We're not signed up for anything, but it was an ask from members from different cities to kind of say like how big can this locker program go? So that's the locker update, and then the other update, and because the VTA BPAC is also the county BPAC. I sent it out by email and you probably got it, but the county has come up with their final draft of the active transportation plan for the county, which is for the expressway network and the unincorporated roadways. And for expressways, they're saying it's also the intersections and the crossings. So that would be valuable for everyone to take a look at, and I would encourage the city to promote that out to our community. Because getting feedback in on that sooner rather than later is good. And not just sooner rather than later, this is the final thing, they have a November deadline where they want feedback.
24th.
Yeah, and then I think the final thing I'll say that I alluded to again before, another kid, a Homestead student, hit on Homestead Road on Friday morning, biking to school by a car driver and the car. And I talked with the mom. I haven't talked with the mom after the fact, but on the scene, and said that the kid has a broken collarbone. Dad was with the kid on the way to the hospital, so I don't know what the x-rays show up, but like, yet another one. So like, it was on Homestead Road in Sweet Oak, which is actually just past the Los Altos jurisdiction border into Cupertino. And it's the very same site that I saw a kid biking to school last year hit.
Did this person stop?
The driver?
Yeah.
I think the driver's.
Then he said one didn't stop.
You know, I think this driver stopped. No, the 3 that I've most recently seen, the drivers.
It's good.
Yeah. So. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Did anyone else have a report?
I'd just like to say thank you for the warm welcome and the immersion by fire. I look forward to 4 years with working with you.
Thank you so much for being here. Really looking forward to working with you. Okay. Does anyone have a potential future agenda item they'd like to put on? Okay.
No, I just have one question, and maybe kind of a follow-up. I don't know if it needs to be agendized, so we can talk about it. Is there a commission input into that active transportation plan? Is there something that the commission can talk and, is it? I know that, I don't think there's a lot of Los Altos other than Foothill and maybe the other side of Rancho, right? That is county jurisdiction, but is there anything that we need to think about?
Well, I'm just trying to think of the realities of what's possible. I mean, we could form a pair and a pair could write a letter and then bring it back to the full commission. And we could send it in if we wanted to give commission level feedback on the plan. I don't have
We have to
ideas
agendize,
unless
yeah.
you have ideas.
Something to agenda, yeah, okay.
Yeah, absolutely. If we want to have a future agenda item for seeing if there's anything that we want to contribute or that we think would be useful to contribute.
I
Yeah.
think the deadline for their collecting feedback is November 24th. If you get it to them kind of by the end of November, you're probably okay. So if you're forming a pair, I think we can form the pair without being on the agenda. You have to do that tonight.
Yeah.
It doesn't mean the pair has to come up with feedback that we're gonna give them, but a pair could explore it, I think, if that follows the rules, right, Aaron? If I got it right, without
It
training.
doesn't need to be.
Is that okay?
Working.
All right.
Right? Casey, do you want to?
I think I'd feel more comfortable not to because of the location of my residence. PTA board has office and they checked with our lawyers, that has told me I can participate in the item, but it's just, I think it's better if I don't get too hands-on, thank you.
One thing I might just suggest is that, you know, if you were to be part of the working pair, you know, the ultimate recommendation could still come from the commission, right? But yeah, I guess like you would be part of forming it, so. Yeah. Exactly.
Maybe you could feel uncomfortable.
But yeah, I don't want to add more to your plate either, but yeah.
I think it is a countywide plan, but I'm just concerned because the feedback from Los Altos would really be Foothill based.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's better if I don't do that, just,
Yeah, just like that.
yeah.
If a working pair wants to organically form, I feel like that is a possibility.
Oh, yeah, that is possible.
Yeah.
And then just notify the chair so it gets on the agenda
Yeah.
for the next meeting.
Absolutely. Bring it back. Okay, great. With that, if anybody has anything else, yeah.
We're gonna make a motion to go back to information items.
Yeah, absolutely.
It could be a commission, the informational items are on agendized
Okay.
by staff, so if you want, you can make a commissioner report.
So point of clarification, this may seem like a crude statement, but a statement nonetheless. I have yet to meet Sally Meadows and I know she is a commissioner. I have missed one meeting and perhaps she was at that one meeting.
She's a.
Yeah.
She's
Okay.
a council member, she's a council
Yeah.
liaison.
Oh, it was like, well.
No, maybe Cindy.
I think Scott's point is fair, because in the past, our council liaisons have typically attended every.
Not Sally, so right, wrong person, but was there someone else? So she's,
Cindy,
I'm getting my names confused then.
Cindy,
And her time has,
she's no longer,
okay,
that's what we have told.
that's what, okay, thank you. Well, as I said, it's a touchy subject and I placed it wrong, so.
Says we should retire.
She's not there.
Not
This is all about-
Not Sally, this is correct.
And also.
She is our council liaison, as she should be.
Council liaison for the following.
No, I literally thought it was Cindy and I apologize. It was, I'm mistaken.
Yeah.
For the record. I knew I was stepping in hot water and I should have done my research.
Okay.
Glad we made that vote. Yeah.
Report closed.
Alright, with that, before we talk about any other council members, I think we can adjourn. What's your adjourn?
What time is that? 9:41, all right.
Thanks, everybody.
Thanks.
Yeah. None of that. Everyone. Yeah, looking forward to working with you.